delivered to Parliament by the President. It is day 2 of the debate, and that debate is expected to carry on until the third sitting of the Senate, which is expected to take place tomorrow afternoon, the 11th day of April 2019. Also in the order of business this afternoon are a number of bills as well as motions. The Natural Resources Benefit Sharing Bill, Senate Bills number 31 of 2018 by Senator Dr. Agnes Zani, is active before the House. It is in the second stage, the second reading stage. The debate on this had already begun before it was interrupted on 27th March 2019. If the senators can be able to clear the business which is preceding this particular one, they'll be able to debate it and hopefully head to the division stage. Another bill which is active in the second reading stage is the County Oversight and Accountability Bill, Senate Bills number 28 of 2018. This broadcast is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. The broadcast is available on Senate TV, on Signet, as well as KBC Channel 1. On your screen is the presiding chair this afternoon, Senator Margaret Kamar of Uasin Gishu County. My name is Edward Kabasa. Good afternoon.
Prayer. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have given to our charge.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable Senators, I have 2 communications to make. Let me allow the honorable member to step in before I start. Honorable members, my first communication is on the visiting pupils and teachers from Luak Girls Boarding Primary School, Siaya County. Honorable Senators, I wish to recognize the presence of visiting pupils and teachers from Luak Girls Boarding Primary School, Siaya County. They are seated at the public gallery, and in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Honorable Senators, I also have a second communication on visiting students and teachers from Usenge Boys High School in Siaya County. Honorable Senators, I wish to recognize the presence of visiting students and teachers from Usenge Boys High School, Siaya County. They are also seated at the public gallery. In our usual tradition of welcoming and receiving visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I wish them a fruitful visit. Honorable Lekina Ledama.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to join you in welcoming the students from Siaya who are here. This is a great opportunity for them to be able to see what transpires in this house. And I'd like to encourage them that to really keep on learning about legislation work, about laws, because in this country, the only way we can be able to move forward is if the citizens are involved in the process of lawmaking. And I want to also thank the teachers for having considered the Senate as a place to be able to bring the students, and want to encourage more and more and more. So on behalf of myself and the people of the great county of Narok, I welcome you to the Senate.
Thank you, Senator Pokisha Samuel.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me join you and colleagues in welcoming the two schools from Siaya and both students and teachers, to wish them well in Nairobi, and also assure them that this is this house that takes care of their counties, and that they can aspire as young people, they can aspire to be here someday as senators or staff of this Senate. I just want to show them that leadership is grown at your age, at their age. We can begin to see leaders at that age, and the only way to show is discipline, hard work, and keep integrity. If you maintain integrity now, by the time you are leaders, we don't have to preach to you. And so I wish them well. I wish the teachers also well as they nurture the young ones, that they must be the best examples for the young people. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I just want to say to them in Swahili word, karibu. Thank you very much.
Senator Ongeri Samson Kengengo.
Kegengo, yes. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me also add my voice in welcoming my neighbors in Nyanza, students from both Luak and Usenge schools. This is a house, Senate is a house of records. And therefore, one day in the history of this country, it will be recorded that you visited this Senate. And therefore, it will be up to you to account for your conduct after visiting the Senate and knowing how you want to handle yourself to the future. You are the promising future generations of this nation, and therefore we want to wish you well, that as you sit and listen carefully, that this is a place not only of records, but a place of order. That the order is the order of the day, not only in this Senate, but that's the way the nation should behave, that it should be a place of order and not a place of chaos or confusion. I thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity.
Thank you. And finally, Senator Mbogo George Ochilayako.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to welcome the students from Luak and Usenge. I am doing so on my own behalf and on behalf of Senator James Agri Bob Orengo. He would have been here to welcome this delegation himself, but is attending a meeting at ODM headquarters and has asked me to sincerely welcome the teachers and students to this Senate. I want to tell the students that we have different perspectives of issues. People think differently, but how to resolve our differences is through debate, through persuasion, and through peaceful and respectful discussions. So I want to encourage you to look at the manner in which we debate Out there, you may be reading in newspapers that we are disagreeing on many issues, but we remain friends, we remain people from one nation, we remain people from one country, and we have a singular objective of having a good country. I want to encourage you, those who may want to join politics, to promote peace, to promote persuasion, and to promote dialogue. And I want to wish you a fruitful interaction with the Senate and a fruitful learning environment for yourselves and for other students and other people you may come across. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Senator Jones Mwaruma.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a petition on behalf of people of Mwatate, Taveta, about compensation on land or for land compulsorily acquired to construct Mwatate, Taveta, Holili Road. It reads, we, the undersigned citizens of the Republic of Kenya, from Chavia Ward of Taita Taveta County, being representatives of 28 persons whose land was compulsorily acquired to construct Mwatate Taveta Holili Road, but have not been compensated, wish to present this petition to the Senate. We humbly draw the attention of the Senate to the following. One, that our parcels of land, which lie in Chavia Umari Sechu Land Registration Section, were compulsorily acquired by the National Land Commission to construct Mwatate Taveta Holili Road via Gazette Notice 7709 of 23rd September 2016. That despite being given compensation award letters in 2016, the following persons, Madam Speaker, have not been paid their dues to date. 1, Johnson Mjomba. 2, Griffin Crispus Sikuku Msaga. The registration section has been indicated for all of them, so I'll just go through the names, Madam Speaker. Denise Samba Kafuse, Penina Machocho Mwandoe, Penina Mwailengo Kitonga, George Mongo and Florence Manga Kambucha, Samuel Kubona Cheruga, Livingstone Mwawasi Mwangwai, Stanley Kirubai and Gabriel Mcharo Iliga, Florence Mkira Mbokomu, Ngerere Maktau and Rejoice Marura Kezia, Mgaro Benja, Mombo Ngala and Timothy Mwakio Mwazo, Fidelis Ngondo Kichimbi, Peter Shake Msaga, Mathias Mganga Mcharo, Mawasi Mwazo Mangombe, Grazelda Mrunde Mchavia, Caroline Chao Madime, James Shake Nyange, Oliver Makugu, Jacan Mwayu Mombo, Fenesas Mshimba Koti, Kaya Cultural Shrine, Ronald Lela Magaro, Anderson John Isaka Kishere, Peter Muya and Joseph Shake, Frederick Mwamburi. That the members have on diverse dates spent a lot of money and time in following up their payment with Kenya National Highways Authority without success. That the members are concerned that the more the payment delays, the more the money loses value. That the delay in payment contravenes Section 111 of the Land Act of 2012, which states that if land is acquired compulsorily under this act, just compensation shall be paid promptly in full, and all persons whose interest in the land has been determined. That the members have made every effort to resolve the matters raised in this petition with Kenya National Highways Authority, but have proved futile. That there is no case pending in court of law, constitutional, or any other legal body on the matters raised in this petition. Herefore, your humble petitioners pray that the Senate, through its relevant committee, deals with this petition immediately in view of the urgency of this and seriousness of the matters raised herein. 2, investigate the circumstances that led to the non-payment of the compensation of the 28 members and any other member eligible for compensation from this project. 3, recommends that 28 members and any other person eligible for compensation along the Mwatate, Taveta, Holili Road be paid promptly. 4, takes any other appropriate action it deems fit. And your petitioners ever pray, dated this 15th day of November 2018. Madam Speaker, this petition petitions the Senate to look at the issues of compensation. We know, for those who know Mwatate, Taveta, Holili Road, it was in bad condition in the previous years. But in 2010, the government undertook to develop it to tarmac standards, and it took away some land which belongs to private citizens. But to date, these people have not been compensated, and as the petitioners are indicating, this money is losing value, and we don't know why they are not being compensated. So I know the Senate Committee on Transport, or whatever committee this petition would be directed to, will expedite action and process this petition so that the people of Chavia can get justice and get paid in good time. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Honorable Senators, pass one to Standing Order 231. I shall now allow comments, observations, and clarifications in relation to the petition for not more than 30 minutes. Senator Jeriot Aaron Kipkirui.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to give my support to this very important issue that is being canvassed by our colleague, Senator Mwaruma, on behalf of residents of Taita Taveta County, on something that is extremely important. And this is an issue that is becoming recurrent on many of the petitions that are brought to this House on how government treats innocent citizens of this country who are powerless, and in terms of the wellness of their economy, they perhaps cannot afford some of the flashy lawyers that are known in this town who would be able to push the government into a position of paying. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, my apologies. It is a well-known fact that for many of such transactions that government has undertaken, where there has been the possibility of a kickback, payments are processed even way faster or earlier than the construction of the road. But in this case, because as these are the record of the earth in the considerations of these ministry bureaucrats, they consider that these are people, perhaps second-class citizens. No one appears to be in a hurry to compensate them for land that is duly owned to them. And this, Madam Speaker, goes on to inform some of the decisions that we made as a House when we were earlier on considering the Land Value Index Bill, Madam Speaker, where we held, and rightly so, because such issues continue to help us understand that we were right at that particular time, that if the government can behave this way, when the tilt of the scale of balance between the owner of the land and the government is largely tilted towards the rights of the owner being respected, what will happen if we pass the land value index in the format that it is? And I want to urge the majority leader, because I know that bill is due for mediation, that if there is a thing that they should never concede, is the rights of poor citizens like the ones that have brought a petition to this House today, to be tilted in favor of government. Because if government behaves like this, when the scale of balance is tilted towards the poor, what will happen if we agree with the proposal from the Ministry of Land to have government have full control, whereby if today they wake up and they feel that there is something they want to do on my little quarter of an acre land that I live on, they'll just proceed and acquire the land, and they'll compensate me at a time where they feel like doing. The citizens of this country will suffer greatly. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I want to quickly request that the committee that will look into this petition quickly summons all the CSs that are in charge of the ministries that are mentioned, that is Treasury and the Ministry of Transport that is undertaking this particular project, to give undertaking on when and how much compensation they will give to these citizens in lieu of the delayed payment. Because any money that is owed to you and has gone beyond the agreed date earns some interest wherever it is. If government has used that money to transact and do any other business, then it belongs to these citizens to be paid. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I do request that the committee that will be given the chance to peruse and go through the issues that are being raised by these residents does this job expeditiously and reports back even in less than the 60 days that they are supposed to conclude this particular matter. And therefore, with those very many remarks, Madam Speaker, I do support the petitioners and hope that this House rises to its prideful place and gives justice to these citizens of Taveta. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Boy Isa Juma.
Asante sana Madam Speaker kunipa fursa hii kuchangia mswada huu ambao umeletwa na seneta wa Taita, Seneta Mwaruma. Ni jambo la kusikitisha sana, hasa ukiona kwamba mwananchi amekubali kutoa ardhi yake itoke na ijengwe barabara, ambayo barabara hii serikali imepata fedha na imetumia pesa zile kufanya hiyo barabara. Ni jambo la kusikitisha sana. Leo hao watu ambao wametoa ardhi yao, ambao hawajalipwa pesa zao, ni watu ambao na familia yao, watu ambao wanategemea hizi pesa wazipate ili waweze kusaidia familia yao. Kwa hivyo mimi naunga sana huo mswada uletwa na Mheshimiwa Mwaruma hapa, na ile kamati ambayo itahusika kuchunguza jambo hili iweze kufanya hili jambo kwa haraka sana, iweze kutujua hawa wananchi ambao wametajwa na majina yao waweze kulipwa haki yao. Sisi kama wajirani karibu Taita na Kwale tunaunga mkono sana mswada huu ambao umeletwa na Mheshimiwa Mwaruma. Kwa hivyo hii kamati iende, sio kwamba izungumzie, waende wenyewe mpaka kwa hawa watu wachunguze hawa watu ni wangapi na ardhi zao ambao wamepeana, walipwe haki yao na fidia yao. Kwa hivyo naunga mkono Mheshimiwa Speaker kwa hilo. Asante.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Imana Malaki Jals.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the chance to support this petition from Honorable Mwaruma about the people of Taveta who have been denied their rightful rights. Now, Madam Speaker, you know, imagine a situation where somebody comes here and says, may I use this piece of land for a particular purpose? And then you nicely say, okay, go ahead and use it. And then they say, by the way, we're going to pay you later for the land that we are using. And then you wait and wait and wait, and nothing happens. We had a similar situation in Kitui, where people's land has been taken for road construction, and no payments have been made. It is still going on. At the time when we visited, we were told that people are going to be paid. And then recently, again in Kiambu, we had a similar situation. People's land has been taken and have not been paid. So the question becomes, our government are human beings, birds that you can tell, go out there and live in the trees? We take away your land, but we are not going to compensate you for the land we've taken. This treatment of our people by their own government is not acceptable. The government of the people should be nicer to the people than other organizations or anything else that is not a government. So the people of Taita Taveta deserve to be given respect. they need to be compensated for their land that has been used for road construction. So I fully support the petition of Honorable Mwaruma for the people of Taita Taveta. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Wetangula Moses Masika.
Madam Speaker, as I support this petition, Article 40 of the Constitution requires that when the government or a public entity alienates land from an owner, compensation must be prompt, must be adequate, must be in full. So there's absolutely, Madam Speaker, no reason whatsoever for the government alienating land from its rightful and lawful owners for whatever public utility, including road construction as in this case, without paying the owners. We have a lot of contradictions, Madam Speaker, in this country where big people are involved. They are compensated before even the project is evaluated and started. Where it is small people, some will follow up their payment until they go to their maker for reasons of the government being uncaring. I want to urge the committee that will be dealing with this matter not just to investigate, but obligate the ministries concerned or any other body, be it the National Land Commission, to pay the owners of this land, because whenever there's a conception of a project, land compensation is normally part of the cost of that project. And Madam Speaker, this should also cover other parts of the country. It is not just in Taita Taveta, and I thank our distinguished colleague for bringing this to the House. There are many places in this country where wananchi walk up and down government offices until they give up for compensation of their properties taken by government. And if government is going to impoverish and dispossess its own nationals and citizens, then God help the people of this country, Madam Speaker. I support the petition, and I do hope that the committee that will look at the matter is not going to sit on it for more than 60 days. In fact, this is a matter that can be done within the next 3-4 weeks to give justice to the people of Taita Taveta. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mwenye Haji Mohamed.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuchangia statement ya arifa ya ndugu yangu Senator Mwaruma, Senator wa gatuzi la Taita Taveta. Mheshimiwa Spika, hili swala la watu kulipwa ridhaa kwa ardhi zao limekuwa donda sugu. Serikali inajizatiti kuhakikisha kwamba maendeleo yanakuja, lakini utapata kwamba maafisa wengi hasa kule National Land Commission wamekuwa watepetevu katika kulipa ridhaa kwa wale wanaohusika na hizi sehemu ambazo ardhi zinachukuliwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, majuzi tulikuwa na kamati ya uchukuzi ambapo hapa Nairobi watu wamenyimwa kulipa ridhaa miaka 4 baada ya mwanakandarasi kuingia barabarani na kuanza kutengeneza barabara. Wale wote ambao wana ardhi katika sehemu hiyo hawajalipwa chochote mpaka sasa, na mpaka sasa pia hawajui ni pesa ngapi watalipwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, kule kwetu Mombasa, ardhi ambayo ilichukuliwa na mradi wa SGR karibu miaka 2 sasa, bado watu hawajalipwa. Kwa hivyo hili limekuwa donda sugu, na lazima waziri muhusika wa usafiri na pia waziri wa ardhi waitwe hapa bungeni waje wajieleze ni sababu gani hawawezi kulipa watu kwa wakati. Haina maana Mheshimiwa Spika, wale wengi ambao watakana kulipwa ni walala hoi. Wanakaa miaka na miaka kungojea ridhaa yao, wakati watu serikalini wanakula pesa na wanafanya mambo vile wanavyotaka. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ingefaa aitwe waziri wa ardhi na waziri wa uchukuzi ili kueleza ni kwa nini watu hawajalipwa wakati barabara inatengenezwa. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Thank you, Senator Masitsa Naomi Shionga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support the petition from Senator Mwaruma. Madam Speaker, it is very unfortunate that we are talking about such a petition in times like this in our country, which needs development. Madam Speaker, if you look at people of Taveta, by the time they are coming up with a petition, and by the time the government was coming up with this particular project, we know very well that there were funds set aside for this particular project. There was a committee, or there is a ministry that is concerned. There is a commission in land that is concerned. And if at all they went ahead and utilized the land of these poor citizens of Kenya, and they didn't bother paying back, it is actually a criminal act other than just even a civil. Madam Speaker, most of these people, when the government is acquiring land, you find that their properties are destroyed, apart from land being taken. Properties are destroyed, their land or their households are misplaced or displaced. So it is the highest time the petitioners are paid even other than waiting and coming here to sort out for anything like petition. And Madam Speaker, Kenya today, we are looking at infrastructure like part of what we need. We are looking at improving our economy. But when it comes to payment, so that even the citizens that are going to enjoy the benefits of this infrastructure and to enjoy the development that the government is coming up with, the citizens themselves are being punished. And here, their properties have been destroyed or it has been taken. I support Senator Mwaruma, I support people of Taita, and I commend Senator Mwaruma for bringing this petition. I urge the committee that is going to look at this particular petition and the ministry that is concerned to be put on the front line so that even if possible, other people whose their properties and whose their land has been taken for the sake of development in this country to be given the money, to be given what belongs to them. Madam Speaker, I thank you very much, and I thank the senator who has brought this petition. Thank you.
Senator Sakaja Johnson, other. Order. Members, I hear our students are queuing to come to the gallery, so I would like to recognize the school that is on right now. So I have a communication concerning visiting students and teachers from Greenville School, Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, my own county. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting students and teachers from Greenville School, Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. Sakaja, continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I join you in welcoming the students from Uasin Gishu. I'm sure they're really inspired to see that their senator is on the chair. Today, we welcome them to Nairobi County, and I hope they enjoy the rest of their stay. Madam Speaker, I am grateful to Senator Mwaruma. Just last week, I led a delegation of the Senate to his county to address an issue of illegal herders. And you could tell from the people that they really feel they have a senator who's representing them in this house. So I congratulate him and I thank him for raising this pertinent issue of land compensation. Madam Speaker, our constitution is very clear. And I'm glad that Senator Wetangula has pointed us to Article 40 of the Constitution. If you look at Article 40, and I will just read further than what he had stated, that the state shall not deprive a person of property of any description or of any interest in or right over property of any description unless the deprivation results from an acquisition of land or an interest in land or a conversion of an interest in land, or B, is for public purpose in the public interest and is carried out in accordance with this Constitution and an Act of Parliament, that A, requires prompt payment in full of just compensation to the person, and 2, allows any person who has an interest in or right over that property a right of access to a court of law. Madam Speaker, it also says that provision, because in many places you find that the excuse used is that people are not holding title. It says that provision be made for compensation to be paid to occupants in good faith of land acquired under Clause 3 who may not hold title to the land. Madam Speaker, these provisions are being ignored every day in this country. Just the other day, we brought here a petition for compensation to those who owned property and affected by the expansion of the JKIA to Likoni to James Gishuru Road, Madam Speaker. For such a long time, people, and this is Nairobi, those are people who are engaging and getting their living, their daily bread from those businesses along that road. Nothing has been done, Madam Speaker. And as Senator Cheriot has said, it seems as if when it comes to matters of the common mwananchi, Madam Speaker, government is treating them differently. If this compensation was for those who had speculated and got property because they know where the design is, they'd have gotten their money promptly, Madam Speaker. But today, all of the issues we're bringing to this House show us that we're treating the ordinary Kenyan with so much disdain in a very unfair manner. Madam Speaker, who will speak out for the ordinary mwananchi? Madam Speaker, I brought a statement here the other day. Kenyans in Eastlands, from Choka area, Mihango, going all the way to Kayole, going up the other side to Dandora, are being evicted, Madam Speaker, because of the power lines. There are those who are in between the power lines, and we said even those who need to be removed properly. But they have moved beyond the 15 meters, 20 meters, they're destroying houses. Imagine the pain and agony of a parent who has to explain to their child in the evening why they have no home. These are Kenyans who've taken mortgages, they're paying overtime, they've built houses. We're talking about big four housing, but we're demolishing houses with reckless abandon. Madam Speaker, issues of the common mwananchi must be taken seriously. This morning again, we've had a fire in Gikomba. We are tired of coming here talking about Gikomba fires. If it was, Karen Mall which has been burning, it would have been solved a long time ago. But the police keep telling us we're investigating. For the last 6-7 years, an investigative report has not been brought to this House. Until we as leaders are even embarrassed to go to the ground and tell people, Poleni Tena, this has happened. We have traders evicted, Madam Speaker, in Westlands. We have traders evicted along Outer Ring Road. To date, they have never been compensated for their rightful place, Madam Speaker. So please, I urge, with a house as a house with a conscience, if we can put the issues of the common mwananchi to the fore, not to the back burner, Madam Speaker. So I thank the Senator, and I hope the committee that will address this, Madam Speaker, can also address all these other issues that we've brought with respect to compensation. These monies which they are supposed to get, Madam Speaker, are appropriated in the budget. If you look at the appropriation, if you look at the budget estimates, it is part of the project cost, the money for compensation. They set up committees of PAPs, the persons affected by the project. They sit down, but they take them around in circles for years, yet they're seeing the rich contractors and those who had high-value land getting compensation. Madam Speaker, it is not fair, and we support that petition, and I am willing to come join them again when they come back to Taveta County, because I know I need them so much in Nairobi County, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Gerard Gay. Samson Kiprotich.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to congratulate Senator Maruma for that issue of compensation. I think my colleagues have dealt so much and talk about Article 40 of the Constitution on protection of right to property. And in fact, Article 43B says, 1, when there is a compensation by government, it requires prompt payment in full of just compensation to the person. And when it goes on and says it should be done in good faith. I think, Madam Speaker, there has been a lot of problem when it comes, and I want to agree with Senator Sakaja that when a project is being carried, especially on the issue of construction of land, it is factored in the project cost. What shocks everybody is that there seems to be a well-orchestrated scheme by some of the people of Taita Taveta. The other day we were discussing about Kiambu. We were discussing about Nairobi. The other day, Madam Speaker, you are on the bypass that is supposed to be constructed in Eldoret to ease traffic jam in Eldoret and allow access to Turkana and Uganda. The same people brought petition when we were in Eldoret that was led by the Chair of Transport, Kimani Wamatangi. It seems there is a cartels that ensure when there is a project being undertaken of land, they don't care about the poor Kenyans of their land. They want to deprive, and the law is very clear as stated and articulated in Article 40. So, Madam Speaker, I want to agree that the suffering of the people of Taita Taveta, many Kenyans, Madam Speaker, as most of my colleagues have said, others follow their payment until they lose it. And it seems even if there is collusion between the agencies that run roads like Kenya, like Ministry of Transport, like National Land Commission, Ministry of Lands, it seems they know where that road will bust, and then they go use the cartels, buy that land, and want to sell it back to the government. Madam Speaker, when the prompt payment, even through the SGR, Standard Gauge Railways, there were so many complaints on the compensation on where that rail will pass through, even on the issues of wayleave, over the issues of roads. Madam Speaker, it is so sad, and I hope the committee concerned will ensure that they investigate this matter. We are willing to be the friends of the committee because most of the people suffer because even, Madam Speaker, there is a new trend where contractors even go and take somebody's land, excavate maram, or even put their machineries. They don't compensate those families. They don't pay them in time. They don't pay them with the price and market value. Yet that money has been factored in the project cost. So it means the cartels, there are people who are sleeping in their job, and that is the Ministry of Transport, the National Land Commission, and I hope, Madam Speaker, as I conclude, even as the National Land Commission commissioners at the end of Swazuri's term, I hope the new commissioners that are yet to be appointed to the National Land Commission will bring sanity to the issues of land compensation in this country. Because we are tired where the National Land Commission, instead of being the protector of our people who their land or their property have been deprived, are part of the catalyst to the cartels to ensure the rights of those people are being denied. So I hope when we get the new commissioners in the National Land Commission and other agencies like Kenya who give out contracts to some of these contractors, and even the Ministry of Lands and Transport must come out clean and ensure, and I expect, Madam Speaker, even on this matter, I expect that the Minister of Transport should appear before the committee, the Minister of Lands, the National Land Commission, the Attorney General, so that we can have a proper interpretation on the same. So, Madam Speaker, I thank you, and I hope this matter will be resolved for the benefit of many Kenyans. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Finally, Olekina Ledama, Narok.
Madam Speaker, I thank you. I rise to support the statement by Senator Mwaruma on the issue of land compensation. Madam Speaker, I've listened to my colleagues, and recently the President, when he was giving his State of the Nation address, he requested us, particularly this House and the National Assembly, to consider the Land Index Bill, which has now been sent into mediation. If you go into the history of this nation, Madam Speaker, before the Land Acquisition Act was repealed, when the Land Act was passed, the process of land acquisition, compulsory land acquisition, and compensation was clearly set out. Now, Madam Speaker, it now behooves us, and particularly the mediation committee that was set up. The Constitution is very clear, Article 113, that within 30 days, they ought to come up with a version of the
Honorable
Land Act.
Senators, am I seeing an intervention from Senator Masitsa? Naomi Shionga?
Yes, I think the Speaker on the floor, the Senate on the floor, I think it is not a statement. It is a petition, I guess. Yes.
I stand guided, Madam Speaker. Yes,
Okay.
I support the petition. And I want to refer back to Article 113 of the Constitution, which set out the clear procedure in terms of the mediation committee. So now, for us to be able to assist these residents of Taita Taveta, it is now upon us members of this House, and particularly the committee, the mediation committee, for them to move expeditiously so that we can be able to really anchor these things into law. If we have a proper legislation that defines the process of land compensation, on, Article 40 of the Constitution is very clear. Parliament sets out, like right now, we are supposed to be able to come up with legislation that will be able to support this issue of land compensation. So really, the only way that I would request the committee, which will be tasked to look at this issue of land compensation, because every other petition which will be brought into this House, unless we can be able to really enact or maybe make sure that we dispense off on that bill so that the president can enact it into law, there's no way we are going to be able to solve the problem. So, Madam Speaker, as I support this petition, I really would like to request that within the 30 days that the committee has been set up, for them to move expeditiously so that it is clear on how people will be compensated for land which is falsely acquired. And thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Next order. Sorry. Before we move to the next order, I have received a petition, a second petition, which I would like to, I have approved that it comes to, it is dealt with right now, a petition by the residents of Ngaremara in Isiolo County on illegal encroachment of their community land by the Kenya Army. But before that, I see two senators requesting for interventions. Senator Sakaja, Nairobi?
Yes. Madam Speaker, I just seek your indulgence because I know that when this petition is communicated to the relevant authorities, the Hansard will also be shared. And Madam Speaker, when I was speaking, I just forgot to add something that needs to be on Hansard. With your indulgence, I mentioned certain areas, but also we have the same issue in Kibra, the compensation of the highway, Kongo Karumba, the railway, and the housing. So just for the record, because the Hansard will be shared, when those people come to that committee, they will know we also discussed that.
That is not an intervention, Honorable Sakaja. You are stealing an opportunity.
I sought your indulgence to make sure that it reflects. My people in Kibera are watching and they've sent me a message and I had forgotten, Madam Speaker. Thank you, you're so kind.
Thank you. So that the next senator doesn't take us back there, I would like to close that petition. Honorable Senators, pass one to Standing Order 2321. The petition stands. The petition from the Senator Jones Mwaruma of Taita Taveta stands committed to the Standing Committee on Lands, Environment, and Natural Resources. Honorable Senators, in terms of Standing Order 2322, the committee is required in not more than 60 calendar days from the time of reading the prayer to respond to the petitioner by way of a report addressed to the petitioner laid on the table of the Senate. I thank you. Honorable Senators, I now would like to call on Senator Fatuma Dulo to present the petition from the residents of Ngaremara in Isiolo County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is a petition by residents of Ngaremara in Isiolo County on illegal encroachment of their community land by School of Artillery, that is Kenya Army. Madam Speaker, the petition reads that in 1977, there was a Gazette Notice number 3210 of 1977 that allocated specified land in Isiolo County, which was then trust land, and now is community land, to the Ministry of Defense for military purposes. That further, the Commissioner of Lands via allotment letter, reference number 1894-64/11, dated July 2018, allocated the said land measuring 3.764 hectares to the Ministry of Defense for military purposes, School of Artillery. That the said allocation was made in total disregard of the law and without consultation with the community, this is being community land, that the Ngarimara Gambela land area now being claimed by the military is situated in Isiolo County and is fully occupied by the pastoral communities and the people of Isiolo County. Madam Speaker, that the allotment was done in consultation with Meru County government, and yet the Ngarimara Gambela land area, which is part of the allotment, is in Isiolo County. That the Ngarimara Gambela adjudication section is a community land which was already occupied long before the purported letter of allotment was issued by the said National Land Commission. That the National Land Commission has no mandate to allocate community land which is already occupied to a military institution. That on the contrary, our President, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, has approved the Ngarimara Gambela adjudication section, and the process of issuance of titles commenced on the 11/2016 and is already ongoing. That on the contrary, that we will not allow, as resident of Ngarimara, anything contrary to our settlement. We would like to make it clear that any purported letter of allotment to the School of Artillery within our community resident is a double titling process, because the adjudication has been going on for the last 3 years, as a National Land Commission is giving an allotment outside their mandate on an area already gazetted as an adjudication section. That the Ngarimara Gambela residents are constantly being harassed by the military, who have a constitutional mandate of protecting them. Madam Speaker, even this afternoon, a commissioner from TSC was actually harassed by military. He was even threatened, and he has written an OB number, and I want to put this on record, number 37/10/04/19. And the commissioner for TSC is somebody by the name Commissioner Tache Bonsa. He was threatened by military with guns, and this is actually very illegal. Madam Speaker, again, one gentleman who has a cell phone number and is a military guy, his cell phone number is 0739378952. He's actually, he's been threatening people who are living in that area to vacate. Yesterday, there was a demonstration in town to the same piece of land. Again, Madam Speaker, the Ngarimara Gambela residents are almost 40,000 families who are affected by the illegal occupation by the military. And our efforts as residents of Ngarimara to have the matter addressed by the relevant authorities, including National Land Commission, have gone unanswered. Madam Speaker, the issues in respect of which the petition is made are not pending before any court of law or any other body mandated to deal with the matter. We whereof our humble petitioners pray that the Senate investigate the matter in a view to returning the land back to the community and stop any further development by the defense forces in the said area until the matter is resolved. Thirdly, resolve that the Kenya Defense Forces vacate the land in question and compensate the resident for the loss of livelihood and any other losses suffered as a result of the illegal occupation by Kenya Defense Forces. There are several petitioners, Madam Speaker, who have signed. Madam Speaker, if I may add, I think it's really very difficult for pastoral community, and especially community land and trust land, where national government sits in Nairobi and they don't know what is going on the ground, allocating land to this person and to that person and to this institution. We are tired of that. Secondly, Madam Speaker, you will find that military in Isiolo, we are surrounded by military. It's as if military cannot get land anywhere else. We have over 10 military camps in Isiolo County, which is even unsafe for the communities and pastoral communities living in those areas. Sincerely, why can't the government focus other areas apart from Isiolo? We are tired of this, and communities are also being harassed by military. Saturday, I was there, Madam Speaker, and the communities were really crying because they cannot graze in their area. And these are pastoralists. And yet, instead of protecting their right, we keep on actually taking away the little piece of land they have. Madam Speaker, I request the Senate to urgently investigate this matter because the harassment is going on even right now as I'm speaking in Garemara. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 231, I shall now allow comments, observations, or clarifications in relation to the petition for not more than 30 minutes. But before that, I have a communication to make. Honorable Senators, my communication is on visiting students and teachers from St. Mary's Nyamakwa School, Kisii County. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting students and teachers from St. Mary's Nyamagwa Girls Secondary School, Kisii County. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Senator Ongeri Samson Kegengo.
Take this earliest opportunity to welcome the students from Kisii County, and particularly from St. Mary's Nyamagwa. They have come from an internal, not a town area, but a rural setting. And they've come to see how their senator and the other senator colleagues are prosecuting the programs and the legislation at the Senate level. I want to tell them that their hard work will bring them fairly close to where we are here, because this is a house where everybody who is able to fight intellectually and being able to convince people that they can always earn a place of leadership. And therefore, you've already put yourself on line for leadership, and I want to wish you well as you stay here, and you are most welcome. And I know Nyamagwa very well, and it's one of those schools that I've always admired, and congratulations. And I'm sure you take back home the good tales of this Senate. It is a place of record, therefore you're also going to go on record that you visited this place at the right time, at the right moment, with your senator welcoming you to this Senate plenary. Thank you.
Senator Haji Faria Ali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also wish to support the senator from Isiolo, to congratulate her for taking care of the interests of her county, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, how can 40,000 people be displaced through a government action? And I think by any standard, that is violation of people's rights, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the other issue that I am concerned about is the fact that the land, the land that was the trust land that was taken is in Isiolo County, yet the consultation happened in Meru County. That is, I don't know, by anybody's standard, it doesn't make sense. How is it possible that somebody's land is asked of another person, another county? Where is the role of Isiolo County in this matter, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, the other issue is if the government is interested in that land, then people of Ngarama and Gambela should be compensated for that land, Madam Speaker. The other issue, Madam Speaker, is that with all those military camp that Senator alluded to occupying Isiolo County, Isiolo County is one of the counties with numerous insecurity. So I'm wondering, what are the military camp doing there if they are not even looking at the interests of the people who are in that county? Yet every other time, there are people who are being robbed, there are people whose animals are driven away. Even me, one of my relatives last year lost 24 camels in Isiolo County, which were in transit to be sold in Nairobi, but they were taken away in Isiolo County due to insecurity. The owner who was driving that camel was also killed. So making somebody a total, because 24 camel is, I mean, it's a lot of herd. and rendering that person also totally destitute because their livelihood has been affected. So where is this? The government that is supposed to protect people is the one that is taking away, and is also the same government that is also not protecting despite having military camps there, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I urge the Senator for Isiolo to make sure that whichever committee that is assigned for this issue, she should follow up diligently so that there is a resolution reached, so that the people of Isiolo do not suffer unnecessary suffering because of act of their own government. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. May I inform senators that this petition has attracted again a good number of interventions, so please be very brief so that all of you can get a chance. Senator Olekina Ledama.
Madam Speaker, I thank you for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this petition. Madam Speaker, I remember last year, there was a similar petition that was brought that had issues to do with the boundary of Meru and Isiolo, and it had to do with the issue of, I don't know whether Lapset and also the military. And I remember during that time, there was an issue to do with the residents who settled in that area. And there was an argument that some of them could have been IDPs after the post-election violence of 2007. Now, this is why I find myself a little bit confused, because we have a piece of land that was, according to the petitioner, was allocated to the military in 1977. We have IDPs who went and occupied the area after the post-election violence. Madam Speaker, this is an issue where we now look at the Constitution, where everyone who lives there from 2007 to now is probably about how many years? 10 years or 12? There's also the issue of adverse possession. So in my view, as a committee, we'll be looking at these issues. Because if you see, I've actually done a lot of research in the area, and it is true, the area is surrounded by the military. There are issues coming up. I remember even in another place called Urgovilla, which is 6 kilometers away from Isiolo town, there was an issue of the military there and also residents of that area asking that they be allowed to, to stay in that area. And the military came out and said, this is our land, it is protected area. So I think the best way that I would recommend the committee handling this matter is to try and find out and go through the Hansard to see what happened to that petition which was brought here last August. If that petition was dispensed of, what was the resolution? Was there any amicable solution? Because, Madam Speaker, the only way we can be able to resolve this matter is amicably. The residents of Isiolo deserve to have a home. We also deserve to have a military that can be able to protect us. We have the same problem in Narok, where residents were being forced to surrender over 3,000 acres for us to have a military camp there. So these are issues where we've got to balance. So although I support this petition fully, I think the only way we can be able to resolve this is through an amicable solution between the military and the residents of Isiolo. And in fact, I remember the former governor, his name is Godana Doyo. When he was the governor of Isiolo, he had talked about this issue of the military and the residents of Isiolo in terms of the conflict between the land. So I think it would be necessary for even the county government of Isiolo to take on the initial intervention, together with the senator of Isiolo, to be able to find a way where they can sit with the military and try to agree. Because if we bring issues of boundaries between Meru and Isiolo, then of course this is an issue that no one is going to know which jurisdiction it falls under. I remember, Madam Speaker, there was also a conflict of where people were arguing that Gambela and Ngerema is in Meru. Others are saying is in Isiolo. And this is why my colleague, when she rose up, she said she's concerned that matters affecting Isiolo are being discussed in Meru. So the only way we can be able to resolve this, and I'd hope that the committee would be able to go there, because I'll be happy to know what amicable solution they would come up with, because then I can probably use the same tactics to help the situation in Narok. Because we definitely we are in the House of Records. There was a petition which was brought here, Madam Speaker. So to resolve these things, the only way I propose, Madam Speaker, in brief, is through an amicable solution, considering all other petitions that have been brought here, so that we can be able to have a way forward. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Please, can we limit ourselves to 2 minutes so that we give everybody a chance? Senator Bokisho, Losuron, Samuel.
Madam Speaker, I just want to support the petition and to give the assurance that this petition is properly before this Senate, and the issues raised are really in the petition are really pertinent. Madam Speaker, a long time ago, maybe this land was needed for military operation. The situations change. Maybe today they don't need as much land for the same purpose that they needed many, many years ago. Madam Speaker, many years ago, the population in Isiolo was smaller. And probably there was large pieces of land that were lying idle, but not today. Today, the population has increased. And again, Madam Speaker, because of devolution, much more settlement is happening in those areas, and more nomadic people want to settle and have land, which hitherto they haven't had. And so it's good that during this committee looks at this, Madam Speaker, and makes sure that they work towards the advantage of the common person, work towards helping the common person from Isiolo to get their land back. And Madam Speaker, I don't think it's averse. You're going to be, I don't think the military is averse to that kind of suggestion, because it's a matter of now trying to see how we can share that land with the people. We are not saying that the military is not necessary for them to have that land, but for those of us who know the populations there are now changing, there's a need for more settlement, and I think the land which is under the military can be shared. So the committee that's going to be there, Madam Speaker, we would like to see that the committee handling this matter resolves this to the advantage of the people of Isiolo. I thank you.
Thank you. Senator Enima Gertrude Musuruve, 2 minutes.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to support this petition by Senator Dulo. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, that we really need to empathize with the residents of Isiolo, that yes, they're helpless. They have community land. In as much as they really want that land, there is a big force that is even taking away the land from them. The people of Isiolo need protection. Madam Speaker, the government is actually supposed to give protection to all the residents in wherever they are. But it is unfortunate, Madam Speaker, that this land is going away and the government has not done anything. And in any case, even the government bodies themselves are being used to ensure that the land is going away to the military. Madam Speaker, this should stop. We have a duty as leaders to protect the common mwananchi. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, if we don't protect mwananchi, who will? And that is why we are here. We are here because of that mwananchi, and we must speak candidly about the issues that are happening on the ground, Madam Speaker. A Gazette notice in 1977 saying that the land goes to the military. Madam Speaker, in fact, the military is supposed to protect the residents. But it is unfortunate that the military is even threatening. You know, Madam Speaker, if somebody stands with a gun and threatens you, you will just collapse. Because this is a person who is supposed to be protecting you. But instead shows you a gun and tells you, if you don't vacate, I will shoot you. Madam Speaker, this must stop. And Madam Speaker, pastoral land, you know, community land rather. Community land needs to be respected. Because community land belong to the community. And in some areas, Madam Speaker, even community land is not sold, simply because land is something that they cherish. And they
Your 2 minutes is over. Your 2 minutes is over. Senator Mary, Senator Yane, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Stand to support the petition that has been brought by Senator Fatuma, my sister from Isiolo, and I want to congratulate her for having thought and concern for the people of Isiolo. And I want to say that possibly that is why we have the first woman senator elected from northeastern counties, because of our concern to the community. In the petition, I want to point out two issues, Madam Speaker. The issue of lack of public participation in the acquisition of these lands. It's becoming a very huge concern to our pastoralist communities, where the government institutions just come and decide they want to take a piece of land and there is no proper public participation. Secondly, the issue of lack of community benefit, even in the said projects. The government is carving land from a community, the land is taken, and the project that has been given to that piece of land is not even helping the community. Finally, Article 63 of the Constitution, sub-Article 4, says that land shall not be disposed of or otherwise used except in terms of legislation. And in this particular case of Isiolo, this is a community land that should not be disposed of or being used forcibly by an authority that is in power. Finally, the use of abuse of power to deny people their rights. Even if the government took land, the military force that is there should not use the office to deny the people of Isiolo their rights. And
Thank you, thank you. Senator Wetangula Moses Masika.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also want to support this petition from the people of Isiolo through their distinguished senator. Madam Speaker, land, particularly in very fragile ecosystems, the so-called ASAL areas, is something that has to be treated very carefully, because the pastoralist communities need vast tracts of land for survival. And you cannot start confining them in small enclaves with the pretext that you have given your land to the military. We've been to Isiolo many times, Madam Speaker, and indeed it's true that there are so many military camps in Isiolo that one would think that if the government wants to act prudently, they should amalgamate some of those units so that they release land to the community, for the community to use this land productively. Secondly, Madam Speaker, the committee that will look at this petition must also examine the efficacy of the National Land Commission. We thought with the new constitution, Madam Speaker, that the creation of the National Land Commission was going to solve problems of land. Instead, they have multiplied everywhere suspicious compensations, unjustified compensations, alienation. Madam Speaker.
We will give you half a minute for seniority's sake.
Madam Speaker, the committee must also look at the conduct of the National Land Commission in this regard. And I want to urge the committee that they go to recommend the reduction of military camps in Isiolo and release land to the people of Isiolo for their production and economic activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Sakaja Johnson, Ada.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, because of time, I'll go quickly. Madam Speaker, two issues come to mind when you look at this petition. One is the relation between the military and the civilians. That's something, and I'm not sure which committee you will move this to, whether it is lands or defense. But Madam Speaker, it's something that is actually sticks out as a sore thumb in many parts of our country. We had a similar problem in Nairobi, I think 2015-16, when we went to solve it in Utawala, where even a road had been blocked that the civilians were using, the members of the public, but we're able to bring them back together with the community to agree amicably. Madam Speaker, if you look, and I hope it is a coincidence, that the increase in harassment of the public by the military in Isiolo has grown in the same proportion as the increase in radicalization, Madam Speaker, in that county. If you look at the last attack in Dusit, many of those, said the cells from which radicalization was happening is Isiolo County. So the first issue that must be looked at is the relationship between the military and civilians. Secondly, we must relook the planning of some of these facilities and air bases and installations of security. Madam Speaker, as the Senator Pogisho has said, possibly that kind of land is not still needed for that kind of operation, Madam Speaker. You don't need 10 bases in one county. Madam Speaker, if you look at Nairobi, Isili Air Base, covering so much land, was built in 1936 in Isili. Do we need an air base in Isili in the middle of town, Madam Speaker? It's even a security threat today to the people of Isili. If that land was used, Madam Speaker, now for the urban housing, for instance, we'd have sorted out issues. Because a city that is growing cannot have an area in the center of the city where, one, you cannot build above a certain height, and number two, it's actually a threat. We must look at these installations. I need a compelling argument as to why, for instance, the Israeli embassy is right next to a school, Loreto Convent, Valley Road. Our girls are like human shields, Madam Speaker, because even for you to pass there, the kind of security check, yet they're next to our girls. So we need to have, a relook, a recalibration of some of these security installations which are not moving with the times. From 1936 to 2019, the need for that airbase might not be the same. The need for certain embassies to be, in certain areas might not be the same. So I would urge the committee to look beyond, of course, to sort out the issue of Isiolo, because it's a ticking time bomb. But on top of that, Madam Speaker, to look at the efficacy of some of these public installations, especially that are dealing with security. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Milko Alice Jepkorir.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to also add my voice to this petition that Senator Dulo has brought from Isiolo. And I want to say that land issue, Madam Speaker, is a very emotive issue, particularly to the pastoralist. And it is quite unfortunate when we are actually petitioning the very government that has already taken military to occupy, that is the trust land. I can already visualize, Madam Speaker, what is happening to the pastoralists, particularly because of their hearts, which is their livelihood, and sooner or later there will be a conflict that will be created in that particular area. I'm imagining the kind of conflicts that we are visualizing or that we are hearing every day is because of shortages of grazing area, and therefore the government will soon be forced to go and solve such various issues, Madam Speaker. Secondly, Madam Speaker, once they have lost, the Isiolo people have lost all the huts, which is their livelihood, it means that even to be able to take their children to school and be able to conduct any other normal business like all other people will be a challenge, Madam Speaker. I think the major thing that we got to look at here is the issue of the people from the Land Commission, because they are the actual people that are actually allocating land. And even if this was trust land, government land, it means there is a problem in terms of allocating that land, Madam Speaker, because otherwise I'm wondering where 40,000 people will be taken to, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think this is a very serious issue, and I wish to really urge the committee that are going to look into this to actually also inform the people of the Land Commission and find out who actually allocated such land to the military. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Wario College Jumo, Tana River.
Asante Bi Speaker. Ningependa kuchukua nafasi hii kuunga mkono seneta wa Isiolo. Bi Speaker, maisha ya mfugaji inafaa tuweze kuilinda sana, kwa sababu utaona nchi kubwa ambayo iko na nyasi, watu wengine ambao hawajui maisha ya mfugaji wanaweza fikiri nchi hiyo haina watu na wakaenda kukaa kama vile tunavyoambiwa wanajeshi wamekaa sehemu hiyo. Nchi hiyo ni nchi ya kulisha, mifugo na kutembea. Bispika, wakati huu ni wakati mgumu sana kwa watu wafugaji kwa sababu kiangazi kimekuwa kirefu zaidi na mvua imechelewa. Shida wanayopata yenyewe imewatosha. Kama sehemu yao ya malisho itachukuliwa na wanajeshi na kisha wawe wanasumbuliwa katika malisho yao wakati wote, inakuwa ni ngumu sana. Kwa hali hiyo, hata sehemu yangu ya Tana River County kuna shida ya malisho na watu wa KWS ambayo wanasumbua watu wangu. Wakati mwingine huenda wakawaua katika malisho, ambayo hivi majuzi tuliona watu ambao wameuawa na hata ilikuwa kwa gazeti. Sehemu hasa ya ufugaji, wanajeshi pamoja hata na KWS wanasumbua watu wetu sana. Kwa hivyo mimi ninaunga mkono nchi ya wafugaji hasa katika sehemu zao za malisho wasiweze kusumbuliwa, waweze kulisha na waweze kutembea katika kujitafutia maji na malisho. Senator. Asante.
Thank you, Senator Imana Malaki Charles Ekal, maximum of 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. We'll use those 2 minutes. The first thing I want to do is thank the Honorable Senator from Isiolo for bringing up this petition. The question that I want to ask is, why do we need so many military bases in a place like Isiolo? Are Isiolo people so dangerous? They must be covered by 10 military camps. So these military camps will obviously need a place to go. And now what they do is they land on very helpless, poor people to take away their land. 40,000 herdsmen and women who keep that land for their animals to graze are the ones whose land is taken away. In fact, I know that 90% of the people who live in Garimara are Turkana people. And last year, there was another fight. There was another fight to evict Turkana people from land in Isiolo. And at that time, several Turkana people lost their lives because they resisted eviction, because they argued that that is land that they use to graze the animals, that is land where they live on. And now, again, something similar is coming around. The army wants pieces of land being already occupied by Turkana people, and they want to be evicted. So I want to say that this kind of behavior from our own military is not really acceptable. This kind of behavior from our own government is not acceptable. People should take first preference in any situation where land is concerned. The military can, for example, go to the borders of Kenya and Somalia, borders of Kenya and Ethiopia. That is where the problems are. That's where the threats are. Why do we need so many camps inside the country? Now, I know this particular problem is also creeping to Turkana. We are talking about giving the military land in Turkana, but then they're asking for so much land. Why do we have to give so much land? Why can't the military take a piece of land as big as this parliament and perform its business? Why must it take large tracts of land? So this is the thing now going on in Isiolo. Poor people are going to lose their living quarters. They are going to lose their grazing lands just to accommodate the military.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. Senator Mogeni Eric Ogongo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the Senator for Isiolo for raising this issue before the House, but I just want to draw the attention of the House. Madam Speaker, may I be protected from Chairman of Legal, Cheruge. Madam Speaker, I wanted to draw the attention of my good friend, the Governor for Isiolo, that in fact we should, the people we should indict is the county government of Isiolo. Because after the enactment of the Kenyan Constitution of 2010, Madam Speaker, we enacted Community Land Act in 2016. And Madam Speaker, under the Community Land Act of 2016, the county government is supposed to work in conjunction with the Minister of Lands to ensure that communities are issued with the title deeds for their land. And any issue of compulsory acquisition of land...
There is a point of order. Sakaja, what's your point
Yes.
of order? We only have 3 minutes to go.
Yes, but we need a clean record in the House, in the Hansard. Senator Mogeni has referred to Fatuma Dulo as the governor of Isiolo. In as much as that is prophetic and much admirable, can you either affirm it or correct it, Madam Speaker?
Okay, please continue because fortunately the speaker did not hear you. I would have stopped you.
I think Senator Sakaja is mesmerized that he's sitting next to the good senator of Isiolo, and he was not paying good attention to what I was saying. Madam Speaker, under the Community Land Act, the county government of Isiolo, in conjunction with the CS lands, should ensure that the communities in that county are issued with title deeds for the land that is vested in the community. And therefore, what I was saying, Madam Speaker, is that the first point of call should be in the office of the governor for Isiolo County. Second, Madam Speaker, under the same Act, Community Land of 2016, the community should elect Community Assembly Management Committee that should be charged with the issues of discussing with the National Land Commission any issue of forceful acquisition of land that is vested in the community, Madam Speaker. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I want to urge the committee that will be looking into this matter, one, to summon the CS lands and explain to the committee whether adjudication process for the county government of Isiolo has been done. Two, the governor for Isiolo should tell the committee whether, in line with the provisions of Community Land Act of 2016, the county of Isiolo has elected Community Land Management Committee that should be looking into the affairs of land that is vested in the community. Madam Speaker, finally, any community land that should be taken by the government, there must be compensation for the residents of that county. And the people who are tasked with receiving this money is the county government, in this case, the county government of Isiolo.
Thank you, Senator. Finally, Senator Mwaruma Jones Mwashushe.
Asante Bi Mzungumzishi kwa kunipa hii fursa ya kuchangia hili ombi la seneta wa Isiolo Bi Fatuma Dulo kuhusiana na unyakuzi wa ardhi na jeshi la Kenya. Kusema kweli, si Isiolo peke yake. Ni kama imekuwa mtindo ya kwamba mashirika ya kiserikali yanachukua mashamba katika sehemu tofauti tofauti, na sana sana haswa hawaombi ruhusa. Kule ninakotoka Taita Taveta, shirika la wanyama la KWS wamechukua shamba kubwa sana upande wa Mbololo ambao ni kima cha ekari 380, na wakakimbia wakatafuta haki miliki kwa hiyo ardhi. Tumetafuta njia ya kuchukua hiyo ardhi kuiregesha kwa county, lakini imekuwa ni shida, kwa sababu ukiwa na hati miliki kurudisha hiyo ardhi lazima upitie kwa koti. Pia kule Taita Taveta nimeona shirika la magereza, na wao pia wamechukua ekari 1000, wakasema wanataka kujenga gereza upande wa Bura, Taita Taveta. Nilikuwa nawauliza ya kwamba Taita Taveta tayari tuna magereza ya kutosha. Kuna gereza la Voi, kuna gereza la Manyani, kuna gereza la Undanyi. Wanataka kujenga gereza la nini Taita Taveta? Magereza tayari kule yametosha. Wale watu tayari wanapenda amani, wanajengewa magereza ya nini? Shirika la wanyama pori KWS wamechukua pia shamba kubwa sana kutoka Bachuma mpaka Ukumbololo, kilomita 1.9 kwenda ndani kutoka kwa reli. Wamechukua hayo mashamba pia. Kwa hivyo naomba ile kamati itakayopewa hii shughuli ya kuangalia.
Thank you, Senator. Your point has been made. Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 23221, the petition now stands committed to the relevant standing committee, in this case, the Standing Committee on Lands, Environment, and Natural Resources. In terms of Standing Order 2322, the committee will be required in not more than 60 calendar days from the time of reading the prayer to respond to the petitioner by way of a report addressed to the petitioner and laid on the table of the Senate. Honorable Senators, before we move to the next order, I have another communication to make on the visiting students and teachers from Makutano Secondary School, Makueni County. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting students and teachers from Makutano Secondary School, Makueni County. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Chairperson of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget. The chairperson. Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, Wednesday, 10th April 2019, report of the Auditor General on the Marsabit County Assembly Car Loan and Mortgage Fund for the year ended 30th June 2017. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Secondly, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, Wednesday, 10th April 2019, report of the Standing Committee on Finance, Budget on the County Wards Equitable Development Bill, Senate Bill number 34 of 2018. I thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The second paper to be laid will be by the Senate majority. Marsabit, it's been done. Thank you. The two of them have been done. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Chairperson, Standing Committee on Finance. Oh, okay. Next order, members.
Order number 7, statements.
Yeah. Honorable Senators, I know we wanted to have our Day 2 debate. We have our Day 2 debate on the President's address, and we didn't want it beyond 4:15. If we are flexible, 4:30. So I would like to request members who are going to request for statements or make statements to be very brief. First statement is from the Senator of Taita Taveta, Senator Jones Mwaruma.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 481 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education concerning the promotion of teachers and Teacher Service Commission directors. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the number of teachers promoted from job group M to job group N and L to M in all the counties since 2017. Provide a list of all teachers promotions done by TSC since 2017, and further, provide a list of all directors and their deputies in all counties and sub-counties. 4, explain the criteria used in the transfers. There's a typo here. It should be of directors, not of teachers. Transfer of directors from headquarters to the counties and vice versa. And 5, explain how many TSC staffers were recently promoted from county directors to directors at Teacher Service Commission, headquarters, skipping the cadres of assistant directors and deputy directors. The thrust of this statement, Madam Speaker, is that there are murmurs that there is skewed promotion of teachers and directors. And we are told that there is talk that the ones who are being promoted or the people who are being promoted might be from a particular communities or particular community and communities. And so from Article 35 of the Constitution, it speaks to the right to access to information. And we might argue that since TSC is not devolved because it's under Ministry of Basic Education, it does not affect counties. But the teachers who are affected actually are our brothers and sisters who teach in the counties. There is talk that there are county directors who have moved from positions of directors in counties and moved to directors, bypassing other cadres in TSC like assistant directors and deputy directors, and they are said to be from a particular communities. You remember when you are vetting or
but Senator, I hope you are not investigating on behalf of the committee.
Thank you.
Give them the job to answer your questions.
I stand guided, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Now, I see a number of people who want to write on this. I want to really, as I give him a point of order, yes, maybe your point of order will help me in dealing with this, yeah.
Madam Speaker, I see they are listed up to G, so it's quite a number of them. I don't know how many are here to request. Yesterday, we started this yesterday. All the requests were made. Then I think the Speaker allowed comments after all the statements had been requested for. And I think we'll save more time if you do that, so that all the statements that have been listed on the order paper are requested. Then you can allow 10 to 15 minutes for those who want to make some comments or write on the statement, Madam Speaker.
All right, can we follow yesterday's precedents, please? Thank you. So the second statement is again from the Senator of Taita Taveta, Jones Mwaruma.
Thank you. Protect me from Commissioner, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand pursuant to Standing Order 48.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Lands, Environment and Natural Resources on the payment of mining royalties by miners in Taita Taveta County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide the names, addresses, and directors of the companies that are licensed to carry out mining activities in Taita Taveta County. Number 2, state the types of minerals they mine from the county. 3, state whether the miners pay royalties, the amount of money collected from these royalties, the account to which the royalties are paid, and whether the royalties accrue any interest backdated to when they were supposed to be paid. Because of pressure of time, I don't think I need to elaborate so much on this, but Madam Speaker, I don't need to elaborate so much, but there's one thing I need to mention, that this statement was there last year, but was not adjudicated, and that's why it's coming back again. And I'm hoping that this time round, the committee will expedite and process this statement so that we can get a proper response. Number 2, the people who are mining, specifically iron ore in Taita Taveta, like one Sangani company, he is carrying away a lot of iron ore. And we do not know if after he removes all the iron ore, he will rehabilitate and restore the mining site to the original land, so to the original way. So I would like to request the committee to impress upon the Ministry of Mining to force Sangani to restore the mining area to the way it was so that it can be used.
Senator, I don't want you again to be tempted to answer for the committee.
Okay.
Yeah, so that second statement stands committed to the Standing Committee on Lands, Environment and Natural Resources, while statement number 1 stands committed to the Committee on Education. Thank you. Statement number 3 is a statement by the Senator for Turkana County, Senator Imana Malaki.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations concerning stress on land and natural resources occasioned by refugees in Turkana County. In the statement, the committee should state the number of refugees currently hosted at the Kakuma Kalobeye refugee camps, explain measures put in place by the government to prevent environmental degradation occasioned by the huge numbers of refugees in the camps in the area. 3, explain measures put in place to ensure conflict over resources is prevented in light of the ongoing drought in Turkana. 4, explain whether the government plans to compensate members of the Turkana community for land occupied by refugees, which would have otherwise been used for grazing livestock. Madam Speaker, a place like Turkana, a region like Turkana, which is already environmentally unstable, for light tracts of land to be given to refugees, and Turkana people are not paid for it. It seems to me, again, that's another use of innocent, poor people. Take away their land that they would have been using for grazing and give it to another community or to other communities and leave them starving. So I'd like this issue looked into as to why our people have to give light tracts of land to people who have come from other countries so that they may live comfortably while our people are starving.
Thank you, Senator. You have come out very clearly, and that statement stands committed to the Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations. Next, again, is from the Senator of Turkana County. Senator.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the chance to air this view. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries concerning a locust invasion in Turkana County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the measures the government has taken to deal with the current locust invasion in Turkana County. 2, state the early warning mechanisms put in place to prepare residents for the future locust invasions in good time and to mitigate against the effects of such invasions. And 3, explain whether the government will provide food aid to the people of Turkana County whose crops and pasture have been destroyed by the locusts. Madam Speaker, I've reported this to the County of Turkana and also to the government of Kenya. And it took a long time before they eventually availed a plane that is supposed to spray the areas to kill the locusts. Unfortunately, whoever is piloting that plane does not know what they are doing because they are just crisscrossing aimlessly when they should be following the rivers and following the plains and killing all locusts. The locusts are decimating every green piece of grass and leaf on plants, and they leave their droppings, which the goats find palatable, and they go and eat those droppings, and then they get sick, they die. This is one of the contributors of hunger in Turkana, because as our animals starve from this invasion, then now people will follow also starving. So I hope that the government understands what I'm saying and will follow with remedies to make sure that in future we don't have more locust invasions.
Thank you. Your request of statement is very clear, and that statement stands committed to the Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. The next statement is from Senator Naomi Masitsa Shiyonga.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to state my statement. Pursuant to Standing Order 48.1, I raise to seek a statement from the Standing Committee of Education on the challenge of water and sanitation facing our public schools. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state whether the Ministry of Education, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, has established water and sanitation policy for schools. 2, table previous periodic assessment reports indicating the status of water and sanitation coverage in schools. 3, explain in progress the progress made toward establishing mechanism for provision of water and sanitation services that commensurate with the population of learners. 4, state the actionable way forward in providing clean drinking water and sanitation services that meet the Sustainable Development Goals, that is SDGs, number 6, that seeks to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all, and 5, explain measures put in place to equip the learners with high-level knowledge and personal hygiene and sanitation.
Thank you, Senator. That's extremely clear. So the statement stands committed to the Committee of Education. And the next statement is also from Senator Naomi Masitsa Shiyonga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, again. Pursuant to Standing Order 48.1, I rise to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources on the outbreak of anthrax at Lake Nakuru National Park. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the cause of anthrax outbreak in the park, table how many wild animals and livestock have been infected and died as a result of this outbreak. 3, explain the effect of this outbreak on the health of the local community and their livestock. Again, the committee should state what measures have been put in place to address the issue, considering that in 2015, Lake Nakuru National Park lost more than 100 buffaloes to anthrax, and 5, the committee should explain the status of locals who consumed products from their livestock suspected to have been infected by the anthrax. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator. The statement stands committed to the Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources. And the last statement is from Senator Mary Senator.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 48.1, I rise to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education regarding allergic policy by TSC to only promote to headship in primary and secondary schools, teachers in job group M and N respectively. In the statement, the committee should, 1, clarify whether such a policy exists in TSC, and if so, state when the policy was passed, indicating whether there was adequate stakeholders' engagement and public participation in its formulation and implementation. 2, explain how the promotion exercise will be conducted in counties in hardship areas, particularly in the arid and semi-arid lands, ASAL areas, which have few teachers generally, and even fewer teachers in the mentioned job groups, without perpetuating further marginalization on these particular regions. 3, explain what affirmative action measures TSC has put in place to ensure that marginalized communities, areas are not marginalized further by the said policy. 4, explain the measures the national government has put in place to address the fate of thousands of competent and hardworking teachers who have stagnated in lower grades for many years, as well as the general lack of transparency surrounding the promotions by TSC. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. And the statement stands committed to the Committee on Education. And that brings us to, before we move to the next order, I have 2 members who would like to comment on the statements. And I also want to urge members, the owners of the statements, that you can be friends of the committee when they are interrogating this, so that if you have additional information, you can also forward to them. Also, while you are dealing with this, with the debate on the presidential debate, you are free to be flexible and ingenious in the way you bring other issues. So for now, I would like to request 2 senators who have requested to make comments on these statements. The Senator for Nairobi, Sakaja Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, as Vice Chair of the committee of where one of the statements has been committed, we will act on it accordingly. Madam Speaker, I want to comment and first of all thank all the senators who brought statements on very pertinent issues. I will focus on just 2 of them. The 2 statements touching on education, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there's the issue of transfers and equitable distribution of teachers. It is very important. But I'd just like to write on that statement and ask that when the committee considers this, the very important question that has not been answered, because transfers is one thing, but when the TSC boss herself says that because of the 100% transition rate promise, there is a shortage of 87,381 teachers, we are staring at a crisis in education. Children going to school does not mean they're getting educated, Madam Speaker. In many of our schools, I have seen children who've come all the way from class 1 to class 8, yet they cannot read. Because there are few teachers and they're mainly in a class, they keep humming at the back of the class from class 1, class 2, class 3, and at the end of it all, and you're in the education, you've been in the education sector, Madam Speaker. At the end of it all, they are not educated. We are not guaranteeing these children a future, and what we're doing is more harm than helping them, Madam Speaker. The TSC CEO can tell us that she requires 20 billion, Madam Speaker. Before we promise 100% transition, have we done a budget? Have we done, an analysis of what the needs are in these schools, Madam Speaker? So please, when that statement by Honorable Maruma is being answered, we must get specific answers on what those needs are. And I have a very difficult time going around many of our schools in Nairobi. There is no education going on. On the second one, Madam Speaker, on water and sanitation, we have schools that have really been run down. We have schools where small children in this capital city, small children have to balance. Maybe in the village they're used to it, but Nairobi they don't know how to use pit latrines. They're balancing, there is no water. Some of the cases coming out of there where they're being cooked for have gone down these schools. It is terrible. But the most painful thing, Madam Speaker, as I go to conclude, in many of the schools I've gone to, the biggest challenge in Nairobi of our children is food. The school feeding program needs to be brought back. Madam Speaker, urban poverty is different from rural poverty. In Nairobi, Madam Speaker, when there's no food because we have no farms. In the village, you can get gorogoro moja of mahindi, you can get some greens, and sustain it. But I remember, the other day I was in Kinyanjui Road Primary School.
Senator, I had said you can visit the committee and be a friend so that we don't stretch this. Exactly
I'm just adding that final.
Start the debate.
I'm finishing, Madam Speaker. Kinyanjui Road Primary School, the children when asked what they would want, it was not new, it was not equipment, it was food. Raila Educational Center in Kibra, food. Githurai Marurui, food. We are taking our children to school, they're coming back with nothing in their stomach and nothing in their heads,
Thank you, Senator. The last senator on that is Senator Eden Dudlo Fatuma.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to congratulate Senator Mwaruma on the promotion of the directors. And I wish to add the teachers, where it was brought up by Mary Senator. Madam Speaker, so many of our teachers are stagnating. And it's really important that the policy by TSC should be investigated to show that teachers' promotion are given in time. Because unless we do that, our kids are not going to perform in their schools. The second point is on royalties and mining, Madam Speaker. That is also very important because there are so many counties that have mineral resources and all that. But the policies, Madam Speaker, governing this particular area is really not well thought about, which I believe it's really important also to involve the communities and make sure that communities benefit from these particular natural resources. A very good example is the way licensing is issued in this country, where the communities are not involved and licensing is done in Nairobi. Especially, I'll talk on behalf of my community, Isiolo, where we have mineral resources, but licensing is given in Nairobi without involving communities. Finally, Madam Speaker, the issue of locust invasion in Turkana, Madam Speaker. It's really important for the government to clearly prepare the communities to locust invasion and also drought. We cannot be doing emergency response year in, year out. This matter needs to be thought about, and I hope there should be a policy that will be able to govern in this particular sense. Finally, Madam Speaker, water and sanitation in schools, as Senator Sakaja has said, especially in pastoral communities where droughts are really hitting hard. Madam Speaker, kids are not attending school, and even those who are attending school, Madam Speaker, they are not eating, and they are not even attentive. So something needs to be done, and the committee needs to investigate all these matters and help our people. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. Honorable Senators, we are now next order.
Order number 8, motion, debate on the address by His Excellency the President, second day.
Thank you, Honorable Senators. I just want to remind you that on this debate you have a maximum of 15 minutes, but you will be warned with a red light 5 minutes to the end of your 15 minutes. Of course, if we take less time, it will help more members to participate. Yesterday, the last The last senator to speak was Mwinyi Haji Fagi, and he actually concluded. So we will move to the next request, which is Senator Jeruyot Aaron Kipkirui, Kericho.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to quickly make my contribution to this very important exercise that has now become a tradition of our parliament since the inception of a new constitution, where the president gets to speak to the representatives of the people and brings them up to speed with the efforts of his government in terms of looking out for the citizens. That is the people, the men and women that send us to this house. And on that Thursday afternoon, we were gladly gathered in the chamber of the lower house, Madam Speaker, to listen to the speech of His Excellency. And there are very important issues that he raised with us as legislators that are in the contents of his speech that I want to address myself too on behalf of the people of Kericho. Mr. Speaker, I must commend the President that if the general objective of his speech was to speak to the heart of the decisions that his government is making and how he intends to run this country and what he feels are the priority areas for him, then on that afternoon, Mr. Speaker, with regards to this speech that he tabled before the House, then he achieved that which he set out to do, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I listened pensively because many of us that are in this House, Mr. Speaker, we consider this to be such a great and a solemn duty that on each and every 5 years when Kenyans go to elections, many people offer themselves up for leadership. But eventually, those of us that get the chance to be here, out of the tens of thousands that seek the opportunity, only 450 or 416 actually, Mr. Speaker, end up in this house. And therefore, when we get this responsibility, we need to take it with great dignity and and utmost respect to the people that we represent in this house, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's a challenge that many of us will continue to have. As a maturing democracy in this country, the dichotomy or the duality of existence of legislators from the government side, or what is constitutionally referred to as a majority side, on many occasions, when we hold a view that is different from that which the executive prescribes or that which they expect us to support, it should not in any way be misconstrued to mean that either we do not agree with the leadership of the president or we do not hold a similar view in terms of respect and the direction which is taking the country. And since this is a topic of discussion that will still continue for the next 2 or 3 other parliaments before we establish ourselves properly as a democracy, I'll try and be extremely guarded in my comments and be as sincere, but still at the same time, be as sincere as I'd wish to be and speak that which I feel represents the needs of the people of the county. Mr. Speaker, the President spent a good amount of time, and this is covered mostly in part 1 to almost paragraph 24 of his speech, speaking to us about the need for inclusion and the need for us to work as a country to ensure that as a people, our goals and our aspirations are all joined and directed towards one direction. A very noble wish, if I may put it so. But I must be sincere that if the President keenly watched that house as we were guided, he could easily have deciphered that if anything that the Building Bridges initiative, for example, is achieving is anything but the opposite of that which he intends for it to achieve. Because when he spoke about Building Bridges initiative, you could see that it was half the crowd was cheering him and the other one was extremely mum about it. And therefore, as our president, I would wish that as he reflects back on the things that he told us, and when he eventually gets a copy of the Hansard, because I want to believe that after the contribution of legislators, one of the things that I expect my president to do is to get a copy of the Hansard of the contribution of the representatives of the people on what they said about his speech, because that is the surest way for him to know. You know, as president, he told the country that which he has done and that which he intends to do. As representatives of the people, we are giving him back the feedback and saying, on this and this and this, we agree with you. On the following, we do not agree with you. And therefore, it is imperative that if the president wants to succeed on his Building Bridges initiative, time has come for him to sit down with those who have issues or those who don't agree with one or two of the aspects of this very noble initiative that he has set out to do, and listen to the concerns they have about this particular initiative with a view to eventually succeeding. What are the things that makes a few of the legislators or most of the legislators that kept on not stamping their foot in agreement with him as he spoke about this very topical issue, which from reading through his entire speech, you can feel that he intends it to be at the very core of his presidency. Therefore, I want to urge the president to take time and listen to the alternative view. The view of the majority of the Kenyans is that after he shook hands with the former prime minister, the same hasn't been cascaded downwards for people to understand that what is it that they entirely want to achieve out of their private conversations and after emerging from the steps of Harambee House. What is it that Building Bridges is supposed to achieve? Of course, we listened that afternoon with the hope that perhaps he will go into more extreme detail and say what are some of the issues that have for many occasions divided us as a country, and how are we now using the Building Bridges initiative to ensure that we address those particular issues. There are many things that maybe irk Kenyans, and when they look at us as their leaders, there are things that we do, there are pronunciations that we make that at the end of the day do not go down well with the political divides of a country. And therefore, if we are trying to reach out to the other side of the crowd, it is important that we listen even to those that we do not agree with. At the very heart of democracy, Mr. Speaker, is a very cardinal principle that we will not always agree. But at those points when we do not agree, we must find ways of being agreeable with each other. That those that hold different views from ours are not necessarily our enemies. It's only that because we are all raised differently, we appreciate things differently in life, there are people that will always hold different views to ours. And therefore, if the president feels that we need to establish a stronger democracy in this country, then that ought to be one of the cardinal dreams and aspirations that he ought to put very strongly in his Building Bridges initiative. One of the other things, of course, electoral justice is a very thorny issue in this country, Mr. Speaker. Many people, for one reason or the other, either rightfully or not, and electoral justice does not just end with the normally disputed presidential election. It even begins at party primary level, Mr. Speaker, where many of our political parties still continue to struggle with this particular issue, where members, when you have a society like ours, where in certain regions, a certificate from the popular political party is as good as a win in the main election, then we must address ourselves to these particular issues and see how are we going to be able to get to a point where we know that eventually the people that get to this house are the true representatives of the people. Such that I feel, Mr. Speaker, that on many occasions there's just too much focus on the presidential vote in terms of when people are discussing electoral justice, and absolutely nothing to do even with an election of the member of a county assembly, which is as equally as important as the rest of the 5 ballots that are put out. But, Mr. Speaker, the president also did speak, and rightfully so, to a great length about no turning back on the issue of devolution. And I agree with him 100%. Devolution is a silver bullet which, if we were to get it right, Mr. Speaker, this country will change and change for good. And it is important for his administration to enumerate, and he has given the figure that as of that afternoon, when he spoke before the House of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, his administration had challenged a whopping 1.7 trillion Kenya shillings to our county governments, Mr. Speaker. But the question that many of the citizens who we represent in this House keep on asking is, are we able to tangibly point out and say that this is what 1.7 trillion shillings has been able to achieve in our various counties, Mr. Speaker? And it's unfortunate because the truth of the matter is that many of our citizens do not feel that devolution has brought value for money from them. And this began even with how we structured the law on devolution, Mr. Speaker. Because so long as we keep a constant of 70% on recurrent expenditure, then it is not good business. If you are to run a business, Mr. Speaker, where at the end of each financial year, you declare that 70% of your income ends up to paying salaries for staff and maybe paying the rest of the overheads, you are not running a successful enterprise. And therefore, one of the things that as a house we need to creatively think about, how can we ensure that this 70-30 divide of recurrent vis-a-vis development vote, we reduce it over the years, such that by the time you get to the third cycle of devolution, you are now reversing it and ensuring that not with every coin that we devolve, 70% ends up paying people's salary. I do not imagine that the dream of the people who crafted our constitution and the aspiration of Kenyans was that for every 10 shillings that we send downwards to our counties, 7 shillings end up paying for salaries and electricity bills. That wasn't our dream, Mr. Speaker, and therefore that is a challenge that we need to address. Finally, Mr. Speaker, because I know time is out, is on the issue of the economy, where, Mr. Speaker, the President spoke on how he feels that the economy is doing strong. That might be true, because sometimes figures and statistics can be misleading. Kenya National Bureau of Statistics can give year on year after the other that Kenya is growing at 6%, is growing at 7%. But the biggest question that we need to ask, if we were to take a walk down the county and listen to the people, will they tell you that life is getting better or life is getting harder in their opinion? In my opinion, the truth is that many of the people, especially the young people of this country, Mr. Speaker, feel that his administration is not addressing pertinent issues that many of the young people of this republic continue to face. Manufacturing, in one of his, the Big Four agenda, is supposed to create jobs, but unfortunately, many of the quotes that he spoke about in this particular speak, he's speaking about the large corporations, how Peugeot has been able to set up a plant, manufacturing a plant here in the republic. But the thing is, many of the young people feel that we need to spend a significant amount in supporting small-time entrepreneurs who are setting up light industries. Those are the people that will employ many of our young people in the tens of thousands, more than Peugeot. We may celebrate that Peugeot has set up a plant in Kenya, but if you compare that to having a fund that will support many of the upcoming entrepreneurs in terms of ensuring that, one, when they access business in government, they are paid at a timely place, in terms of the tax regime that is favorable to many of these young people that are in business, you ensure that their business are sustainable. That will address the issue of the issue of many of our young people being without jobs, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, on that regard, Mr. Speaker, I felt the President needs to pay a closer attention. Finally, Mr. Speaker, in one of his paragraphs, Mr. Speaker, I feel that some of these presidential speech drafters, they embarrass our president, because it is a known fact that these CCTVs that were installed across the city of Nairobi, they do not function. It has been in the news. We have read it in our newspapers that the time Honorable Mushai was killed on Kenyatta Avenue, those lights were not working. The other time, another person was murdered, and when you tried to retrieve the images from that footage, you can clearly see that it wasn't working. Therefore, it is unfortunate if in his presidential speech, the president is informed and gladly reads it aloud that they have put out 15,000 cameras. Mr. Speaker, I feel in a matter as important as this, they need to be accurate in his presentation. With those very many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support this speech by His Excellency. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Cheriot. Senator Moses Wetangula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for an opportunity to contribute to the President's speech via the motion moved by the Leader of Majority. Mr. Speaker, if you sat in that chamber the afternoon of Thursday was it Tuesday or Thursday last week? Mr. Speaker, you could see that over the period, the President has gained on the opposition side and lost on his side. You saw a lot of cheering from the opposition benches and marling and grumbling from his own benches, Mr. Speaker. This tells a story that the unfolding scenario of politics in this country is very interesting indeed. Mr. Speaker, the President spoke to several issues, and I want to spend just a little time to mention a few. Listening to the speech and the manner in which it flowed, Mr. Speaker, tells you that it is utopia, pure utopia. One would have thought that, Mr. Speaker, the President was talking of a different country and not the Kenya we live in and the Kenya we know. I would invite His Excellency, the President, to read a small book by Chinua Achebe called The Trouble with Nigeria, and it may help him appreciate a few of our things here. Madam Speaker, many of the things in this country have not improved. Cheriot, the senator for Kericho, has spoken to economy. Madam Speaker, the economy of this country is shrinking, truth be told. If you look, Madam Speaker, at the employment, Mr. Speaker, I thought it was the distinguished senator for Uasin Gishu. Mr. Speaker, I have no intention of changing your agenda. Mr. Speaker, 75% of the Kenyan workforce is in the agriculture sector. If you look at the agriculture sector, Mr. Speaker, cane farming and sugar production is dead. Maize farming is dead. Tea farming is in problems. Coffee farming is dead. Rice farming is in trouble. Every direction you go to Naivasha, flower farms are closing down. So where is this growth? Where are the jobs coming from, Mr. Speaker? We are having serious difficulties that we need to address as a nation. And I agree with the President that we need to work together, that we need to have a situation where unity of purpose in the country must be embraced by all of us if we have to address our problems. I expected the President to mention, through the Building Bridges initiative, the desire to address constitutional changes in this country. He has spoken many times to the issue of inclusivity. He has spoken many times to the issue of accommodating those who have not been able to capture state power through elections. But, Mr. Speaker, we all know that the situation of bringing tranquility to this country cannot be resolved by a friendship between individuals. It must be resolved by strong institutions. I and any one of us can be friends, but that friendship can be skin deep. Tomorrow we may part ways, but we want a situation where, like my distinguished Professor Aaron Ringera used to tell us at the university, that if you want to know the taste of a good law, imagine that law in the hands of your worst enemy. If you feel safe with it, then it's a good law. That's why we want strong institutions that are not based or dependent on the benevolence of anybody. That even if Idi Amin became the president of this country today, our constitution must restrain him from doing the silly things he did to Uganda in the 70s. That is the Kenya that we want, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the President spoke to corruption, and this I even spoke to the media and supported his one statement that this country cannot allow vigilante justice. For those of you who have not watched the movies where the vigilantes were at their best, you should go and see movies starring Charles Bronson called Death Wish 1, Death Wish 2, 3, and 4. And you can see what vigilante justice means, how people can take the law in their own hands and hand down those they think have offended the law. We don't want to go to that Wild West. And I agree, due process must be the cornerstone and the foundation of any orderly state, any modern state. But that notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, there is what we call justice through courts of law, and there's what we call justice through public courts and public opinion. There are certain situations, Mr. Speaker, where you don't have to wait for people to be taken to court for them to take responsibility. The people who work for the president, ministers and others, enjoy their offices at his pleasure. And where they are constantly mentioned in dirty deals and fraudulent activities, the president doesn't have to wait for courts, because the manner of proof beyond reasonable doubt in courts is different. And the manner of losing confidence in people you have given responsibility is different. This Kenya has millions of people with capacity, men and women, who can sit in offices and work without blemish. So I want to encourage the president that while it is important that due process must be applied on each and every individual, those who hold offices in public must enjoy the full confidence of the public for them to deliver. And there come situations where, Mr. Speaker, people have to take responsibility and, as the Romans would call it, fall on the sword, where things are not working. So we want the president to move from lamentations to action in matters of corruption. We want also to encourage, Mr. Speaker, that institutions of governance in this country take too long to come to the satisfaction of the expectations of people. Look at the case of IEBC and the Chicken Gate scandal. The corrupt transactions in London have been prosecuted, people jailed for 7 years, they have served their term, completed, and gone home. In Kenya, the case of our friend Oswago, who was the CEO of IEBC, has not started. It is still in court. No evidence has been called. It is mentioned and postponed and postponed. And you can say this of many other cases. Look at NYS 1. What happened to those cases? Look at NYS 2. Look at Kenya Power and Lighting. Look at Anglo Leasing. Can you imagine Anglo Leasing cases are still going on? 10 years down the line, 13 years down the line, until my brother David Mwiraria from Meru went to his maker with a charge hanging on his head. Perhaps he would have been acquitted and gone a free man. We must have our courts style up, and courts don't act in vain. The prosecutors must bring cases to court with proper evidence in time and make sure that justice is dispensed quickly, fairly, and justly to all that are brought before courts. Mr. Speaker, the President spoke about our obligations as a nation. And I have a feeling, Mr. Speaker, having been your foreign minister for quite a long time, that Kenya is punching below its weight in the region. We can do much better than we're doing. We're having problems with Somalia, a country that is beholden to us. We're having problems with Uganda over Migingo, a country that is a member of the East African community. We are quarreling over all manner of things. In fact, when the president announced that he was giving land to Uganda to build a dry port in Naivasha, I thought President Museveni was going to stand up and say, I reciprocate by never ever again laying claim to Migingo, which is part of Kenyan territory. Nothing like that happened. And we are constantly looking weak in the face of our neighbors when in fact we are the superpower of this sub-region. I want to encourage, Mr. Speaker, that the country becomes more vibrant and boisterous in the manner we execute our foreign policy. You look at South Sudan, a country whose peace and independence we negotiated here at enormous cost. It has now abandoned Kenya and is opening new routes all the way through Ethiopia to Djibouti, denying us business, denying us jobs, denying us everything. Surely, if we were doing the right things, there's no way South Sudan can leave Kenya and go to Djibouti. There is no way we can have Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi exploring alternatives to go to Tanga to build a new port when we have Mombasa, which is the nearest. It means our diplomacy is not quite ticking. And we need to do this because every time it doesn't work, we are losing creation of wealth, we are losing creation of jobs, we are losing our status as the giant of the region. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, so that I leave others to speak, I want to encourage President Uhuru that let nobody advising you, cheat you, that your Big Four agenda is achievable in your remaining period in office. Very good idea, very good dreams, and indeed every dreams are legitimate and valid. Let that be work in progress, like we have Vision 2030, that it was a dream to build houses, to improve manufacturing, value addition, and so on and so forth. But Mr. President, focus on two things for your legacy. The war against corruption, make sure that no stone is too heavy to turn so that we can clean this country. The second issue that will be your greatest legacy is to restructure and re-engineer the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya 2010 so that we get rid of all the weaknesses that we have spotted therein. Strengthen devolution more by giving more funds to devolved units, bring greater inclusivity, and above all, institutionalized electoral justice so that not every time we go to elections, people are sitting on edge, wondering whether they will be banned in their houses, they will be killed, they will be shot, and so on and so forth. Those two things will be your greatest legacy, Mr. President. Focus on electoral justice and reform of the Constitution, and above all, the war against corruption. You yourself said, whether it's your brother, whether it's your cousin, whether it's your ally, whether it's your friend, nobody will be spared. We want to see that you live to that billing and you clean up the mess in this country. We know that, as the good old saying goes, problems can never be solved by the same level of thinking that created them. Let's see if you'll be the different actor this time round. I beg support.
Senator Haniri George.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to make my comments on the State of the Nation address by His Excellency the President. But before that, Mr. Speaker, before you came to the chair, we had struck a deal with the Speaker who was there in the interest of time that we can use this period also to make our comments on the statements. There were about 8 statements that were raised. So she said we could take this time a minute of our time to comment on that. So allow me to thank Honorable Senator Naomi Shiyonga for bringing the statement on the supply of water in our schools, throughout the schools. Mr. Speaker, I saw she had directed the statement to the Ministry of Education, but I sincerely think this statement belongs to the Ministry of Water because we have a substantive ministry on water that handles policy since water has been devolved. So she was talking about policy, and I think the statement should be redirected to the Ministry of Water. It's a very, very important issue, supply of water to our schools. I feel very pained driving around my county and around the country to see children walking long distances to fetch water for their use, daily use. It is a shame that 56 years after independence, we are unable to supply not just our schools, but our populace with water. Water is a basic necessity that a country like Kenya that attained independence 56 years ago, we should have attained the level whereby all homesteads and all schools are supplied with water. I doubt that there is a serious policy on this, and I think that is what the Senator Shionga was asking for. We are yet to see. When the chairman concerned comes, we want to see really if there is a policy on supply of water to our schools. We are looking forward to that, and we will be here to interrogate that. Mr. Speaker, coming back to the State of the Nation address, let me start by confessing that this was President Uhuru's 6th, if not 7th, State of the Nation address since he assumed power. And I want to say it was my 2nd. I only attended the very first one when he took power, and then I gave up because it just became a talk show. Until after the handshake, I saw some seriousness, and that is why I attended this one. But I must say that to me, it was an anti-climax because we expected some earth-shaking statements and the decisions in that particular speech to deal with the issues that we talk about day in, day out. Nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad that he touched on almost everything that we expected him to touch on. But in my opinion, there are a few issues that I deem very, very extremely important that he did not come very clear on them. The first and foremost is the ravaging hunger that has stricken our people in Turkana, parts of Baringo, of course caused by the prolonged drought that we're experiencing. Mr. Speaker, a country that is fertile as ours, a country that is boasting of enough food in our strategic reserves, it defeats logic to hear that people are starving, people are going without food. We hear there are deaths, although the government is denying that there are no deaths, but I think people have died of hunger in those parts of the country that are affected. I expected the president to dwell on this matter because it's a very topical issue now. It is affecting Kenyans now, and Kenyans want to know the solution, and not just the short-term solution. We're looking for long-term solution to the issue of hunger. We cannot be talking about hunger year in, year out. The second issue that I think he also did not come out very clear was the issue about unemployment of our youth. This is a time bomb, Mr. Speaker. We are churning so many graduates from our universities and other colleges. We have established so many universities. We have so many graduates coming out every year. But then we have no capacity to absorb this youth. In my opinion, it is a serious crisis. It is a bomb that we are sitting on, a time bomb, and one time it may explode on us, the leadership, and it will be too late. This is an issue that must be tackled conclusively so that we ensure that we are able to create employment in the private sector and even in the mainstream government to be able to absorb the many graduates that come out of our colleges and universities every year. On the state of economy, I was very surprised to hear that our economy has been growing at about 6% and that the projection this year is 6.3. Mr. Speaker, I expected that if the economy is growing at that rate, we saw this during Kibaki time, it should trickle down to the people. We are not feeling it. You are telling us the economy is growing and our people are languishing in poverty. Go to the countryside. I go to my county every weekend. Mr. Speaker, all I see is just poverty. Poverty. People don't know what they are going to feed on even that particular day. It is a dire situation. So if the economy indeed is growing, we expect to see this trickle down to the common people. And then you also wonder, the economy is growing, yes, and we are being told that the allocation to the counties is going to be slashed by about 9 billion in this financial year. Mr. Speaker, this is a contradiction. Because if the economy is growing, then we expected that the allocation, the revenue collected is higher, and therefore the allocation to the counties, it follows that the allocation to the counties should be increasing. Why are we experiencing cuts? Because we have been told that we're going to have a cut of, is it 9 billion? I think it's 9 billion in the coming financial year. So these are things that are disturbing my mind, that we are being told the economy is growing, and yet we are seeing poverty on the ground. The levels of poverty are just growing and growing. The remittance to the counties is being slashed. So it's a contradiction. Mr. Speaker, the only thing that I was very impressed with, and I want to state here that I support the President fully, we will stand with him all the way, is the fight against corruption. That we will stand with the President. We support him. It was so refreshing to hear that there is no turning back on the war against corruption. It was so refreshing to hear that there will be no sacred cows in the war against corruption. Very refreshing to me and to many Kenyans. But this has been the talk for the last year or so. We want now the President to walk the talk. This vice called corruption has brought a lot of suffering and problems to the people of the Republic of Kenya. A situation whereby the elite in the leadership, the chosen few, have taken advantage of the positions given to them by Kenyans to loot the very Kenyans that they have been entrusted with their lives to make sure that they change their lives. They bring to them development. Mr. Speaker, money meant for this is pocketed. People want to invest, I don't know for what. Spend the money with their families, and yet the rest of Kenyans are suffering. It is time that we tell them their days are numbered, the days of those who have been stealing from the government coffers, their days are numbered. It is time that we see now proper action, solid action. We want to see arrests and recovery of some of this stolen wealth from these people so that it can go towards what it was meant for. Mr. Speaker, I see my time is almost up, but I just want to say that the other issue that I think should be given a lot of emphasis is the agriculture. A speaker who spoke before me noted that over 75% of our population relies directly and indirectly on agriculture. And I want to believe the percentage is much more than that, maybe 85%. If you say, if you're looking at those who rely on agriculture directly and indirectly, then I think the percentage is about 85%. And yet, the government has been giving just lip service to the farmer. Our agricultural sector is in shambles. The sugar sector is on its knees. The maize sector, we all know what is happening in our maize growing areas. Farmers are not paid, so the sector is on its knees. The coffee sector is on its knees. The tea sector, which is a sector, Vihiga is a tea growing area, is also not doing very well. Farmers are not getting proper returns for their inputs. So this is one area that we want to urge the President to ensure that they pull up their socks to ensure that the agricultural sector is properly supported, the farmer is properly subsidized, so that we can revive the agricultural sector. Last but not least, it was also refreshing to hear that the government is committed to devolution, ensuring that devolution works. But we've heard this rhetoric since President Uhuru came to power. It's been a support of lip service, what we call lip service. We want to see timely releases of county funds to the counties, because that is the biggest complaint we are having. We want to see that there is equitable sharing of the national cake between the county governments and the national government. And we want the government to support the Senate fully in ensuring that we succeed in our oversight role by ensuring that we are properly funded with our monitoring and evaluation fund, so that senators can be empowered to oversight their various counties timely, rather than waiting for the reports from the Auditor General. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say we support the speech, and we hope that the President will walk the talk in the issues that he raised in his speech. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Faria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for allowing me to support the President's speech in the State of the Nation address. Mr. Speaker, in one of the comments of the President, there was 1.7 trillion transferred to counties. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, apologies for that. This is a welcomed gesture from the President, and we appreciate the fact that devolution is being supported, Mr. Speaker. But when I did my calculation, Mr. Speaker, that brings me back to the point where I always say the amount that is given to counties should be a percentage of the budget and not audited accounts, because we are so much behind in terms of audited accounts, because our sister house hasn't been passing fast enough audited accounts, so that the amount that is being transferred to counties is upgraded. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, the 1.7 trillion that is transferred to counties, that is only 12.8% of the 13.24 trillion that was the budget for from 2013, 2014 up to 2018, 2019, Mr. Speaker. 13.24 trillion has been budgeted and spent in total. So if I was to take 15% according to the constitution of that budget, it would have come almost 2 trillion, Mr. Speaker. To be exact, it would have been 1.986 trillion, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if now during the referendum or through a constitutional amendment, we should increase the amount of money that goes to devolution, because as much as devolution has its own challenges, we are for some of us who have never experienced a lot of funds coming to our region, at least we can see something on the ground since the devolution came, Mr. Speaker. So if we just made 45% of the budget of this country, Mr. Speaker, by now we would have transferred whooping almost 6 trillion to be precise. It should have been 5.958 trillion, Mr. Speaker, had that been followed, Mr. Speaker. And had that also happened, Mr. Speaker, then those areas, as you're aware, ASALS covers 80% of the landmass of this country, Mr. Speaker. And because of the famous sessional paper of 1960, sessional paper number 10 of 1965, there hasn't been much investment in those areas, Mr. Speaker. And because of that, right now, if you are serious about food security, Mr. Speaker, then this is the right time to invest in those areas. Give a special fund to those areas so that they can develop faster, so that enough food can be grown. Like, thanks to my position in Senate, I've been able to visit other counties. I'm seeing the predominantly agricultural areas, the acreage of land is shrinking by the day, Mr. Speaker. So very soon, all the agricultural land probably will be replaced by settlement, Mr. Speaker. But if there was more investment in those arid and semi-arid areas, enough investment for it for all that resources to be utilized, by just doing simple things like provision of water, for example, in terms of either big dams so that there is enough rainwater collection, in terms of boreholes, in terms of even piping water from some seasonal rivers that we have, Mr. Speaker, this country would not only be food secure, but we will have enough money to export to other countries, Mr. Speaker. Let me talk about something like dates, Mr. Speaker. Saudi Arabia and other places that grow dates has probably the same temperatures like northeastern. And dates would have easily grown in our counties, Mr. Speaker, had there been enough investment in terms of food security, Mr. Speaker. And given that, if we only exported enough for just the needs of Kenya, and we would have saved money that we use for import, and then we would have even exported enough for our neighboring country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other thing that I appreciate the President for is the fact that he said that affordable housing, Mr. Speaker, they will create opportunity for local industry in terms of ring-fencing certain components, such as doors, windows, exclusively by micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in this regard, this is commendable, Mr. Speaker, for our President and his government. It will greatly empower the local youth artisans, the geocali industry, grow this industry, Mr. Speaker. And we just need to, his government just needs to ensure that this is not taken over by cartels who will be taking away these businesses from the local industry, Mr. Speaker, because this will hamper the initiative that the government has to ensure that these people grow, Mr. Speaker, because they contribute greatly to the industry. Mr. Speaker, there is also in the presidential speech in terms of unlocking the potential of resident sector, and his administration will be working towards addressing the challenges of access to credit, training and development, training and skills development. In this regards, there will be SME credit guarantee schemes, and that in few weeks, his administration will ensure deepening access to credit without subjecting to complex application procedure and collateral requirement. Mr. Speaker, as we are aware, the small and medium-sized enterprises employs almost 85% of Kenyan workforce, Mr. Speaker, which is about 14.9 million Kenyans. And it contributes to around 28% of the GDP of this country, Mr. Speaker. And given that it is vital to the economy, and research suggests that the contribution to industrial will satisfy the local market, demand for services, innovation, and then also support large farms with inputs and services, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, since the capping of interest rates, Mr. Speaker, the access and coupled with crowding out effect of the government in terms of government increasing its borrowing from the local market and capping of interest, Mr. Speaker, we have noticed that access to credit for these people has shrunk. So, Mr. Speaker, I commend the President for thinking wise to ensure that these people are taken care of, Mr. Speaker. Because 28% of the GDP, that's a big percentage that this group take care of, Mr. Speaker. And according to the World Bank Credit Guarantee Scheme, help in the risk SME lending by providing partial guarantees in case of default. So I applaud the government, our government, under the leadership of His Excellency, the President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, for taking that initiative, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other issue that I commend the President for is the issue around leather value chain, Mr. Speaker, and the fact that common manufacturing unit will be based in Karioko market, Mr. Speaker, and it's near completion and it will be equipped. Mr. Speaker, I also encourage His Excellency, the President government, to ensure that there is also another factory somewhere, for example, in Wajir, where hides and skins is in plenty, Mr. Speaker, because that is where they keep animal in plenty. Or, Mr. Speaker, so that industries normally are either established next to the where raw materials are found or next to the market, Mr. Speaker. So that in terms of once there's additional value added to those and the shoes are manufactured, then it becomes easier to transport instead of transporting all the way to Nairobi for raw material that is found plenty. And also, it will also create more job security to the people of those areas, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other thing that I am very happy about is in terms of universal education, access to universal education, Mr. Speaker, and 100% transition, Mr. Speaker. This also coupled with Senator Naumi's statement as well, in terms of provision of water to those schools. Mr. Speaker, in my county, there is the biggest day school in that county, Mr. Speaker, that moved from 4 streams to 7 streams, and even with those 7 streams, there are between 76 to 82 children in one classroom, and the toilet, provision of water, everything has remained the same. So, Mr. Speaker, the fact that it is commendable that we have 100% transition to this school, necessary infrastructure and necessary facility and provision of water should also complement to the increase in the number of students in those schools, Mr. Speaker. In terms of building bridges initiatives, Mr. Speaker, I support the building bridges initiative because it has brought the temperature of this country down. And I support the President for that initiative, Mr. Speaker. In that same breath, and former Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker. In the same breath, Mr. Speaker, the President talked about victims of historical injustice, Mr. Speaker. My county, more than anywhere else, has experienced historical injustice, Mr. Speaker. Like, for example, in 1984, February, Mr. Speaker, 5,000 Kenyans lost their life in a soup that was, people were grounded in, in an airstrip, Mr. Speaker, where everybody almost died. There are few people who escaped, but Most 5,000 people lost their lives there, Mr. Speaker. Although there is also not. So, Mr. Speaker, if 10 billion was set for that purpose, Mr. Speaker, I would urge His Excellency the President to ensure that this compensation to these people is fast-tracked, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we talk about, sometimes resources being given according to population. That is the biggest factor when we are talking about distribution of county money, Mr. Speaker. Yet, because of historical injustice in our region, in the name of shifter, in the name of terror, in the name of you name it, we have faced a lot of injustice. That also reducing our population. The fact that also there are no investment in those counties also, made it worse that we are in that situation, Mr. Speaker. And then now we are being punished for not having a bigger population, and the formula is always towards population, Mr. Speaker. And coupled with the fact that, Mr. Speaker, knowing very well that a person who, like in Wajir, from one corner to another is about 500 kilometers. Imagine reaching those people who are living in those sparse areas. What happens? Isn't it much more costly than a county that you can trespass just within 3 hours, Mr. Speaker? So, Mr. Speaker, if there are going to be formulas, Mr. Speaker, because like some of these counties are so developed that you don't even know what to do with that development money, Mr. Speaker, because successive government have been developing those counties, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, let us find a just way of distributing resources. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Senator Kibiru Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First and foremost, Mr. Speaker, I want to register my exception to the fact that the executive did not keep time on that day when they came to address us in the chamber. We were held captive for 28 minutes. Mr. Speaker, if you remember, early January, Lord Michael Bates almost resigned because of coming late for 4 minutes. I think the executive need to take care of the resource called time. Time is a resource that need to be respected. And because we are in a house, the two houses are houses of order, I think the executive need to respect time. And probably I'll be asking your office speaker to express our reservations in not keeping time. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would want to give the government about 4% or 40% for that, for some of the issues that the president addressed. And to begin with, I would want to draw or request that the advisors of the president and the economists that we have in this country may want to go back to the sessional paper that had just been mentioned and try to retrace how the economy and the country was running before the adjustment program by the World Bank. We had very clear policies. We had issues that used to work then. It was not until the structural adjustment programs of the 1980s that were forced on us by the World Bank that we started bringing some of the issues that we are suffering from to date. During those days, Mr. Speaker, we had everything, and everything worked. And Mr. Speaker, if we were to go back there, I think we can be able to move the Agenda 4 based on some of the basics that were done then. Mr. Speaker, coming to some of the issues that the president's speech or the president did mention is the legacy of the Agenda 4. From the onset, Mr. Speaker, I'm on record in this house and even in Kamukonjis stating that many of the elected leaders are not aware on these Agenda 4s, where to start and where to end. And being the elected people and the first the ambassadors of some of these issues, I think, once again, I would want to say that, and we did ask the minister in charge of coordination, to create time to come and tell us exactly what is it that we are talking when we talk about the Agenda 4. Mr. Speaker, going one by one now when we talk about this Agenda 4, recently, Mr. Speaker, we did visit a county that is associated with you, Mr. Speaker. And when we looked at the issues of health, we could see, yes, fine, we are talking about giving equipments to counties so that they can be able to give services to our people. But Mr. Speaker, you remember we went to one of the hospitals, and there was a theater, some theater equipment that could not stand up. And when you ask the experts there, they were saying they were given maybe a bed which is supposed to be an operational bed, but then it turns out to be a maternity bed. And there's some other equipment that have been lying there. There is no three-phase power, there is no water, there's nothing for 2 years, and the counties are paying for that. As much as we want to help and to offer services to our people, Mr. Speaker, we need to plan. We need to agree what the value for money. Mr. Speaker, when a county is asked to pay 200 million every year because of equipment that they are not using, I think that is not fair to the counties. That is not fair to Ajiko. That is not fair to this country. We need to act and deal with issues where we are not putting money where it is supposed to be put. Good ideas, but bad implementation. So I think on that, that's why I'm saying we need to improve. And that is why I said, if we were to go back, I think we can be able to do better. Mr. Speaker, the other agenda is agenda on agriculture. We all know what is happening in this country. I saw even my neighboring senator from Embu the other day trying to ask for food, donations, food, relief food. These are issues that, especially where he comes from and where there are livers around, these are not things that we should be talking about in the 21st century in this country. I think the government can do better than that. And like I said, the period before the structural adjustment program, we had everything working. We had extension officers, we had AI, and we had people who would advise and even have nurseries where you could be able to go and buy or be given seedlings. Mr. Speaker, I think Kenya, we need not go to the route of being so dependent on handouts from the government. Where the government says, we will give you this, we will give you this. I think we need to come up with a deliberate effort where we create an enabling environment that enables 70 to 80% of Kenyans to be able to generate income so that they can be able to service or to be able to buy some of the services that are being offered by the governments or by other institutions. Then the 20%, then we can give them welfare. Because when we say everything is free, education is free, health is free, everything is now becoming free, that is why in another language you hear Kenyans from other parts of the country saying, saidia sisi serikali. We don't want to have that kind of an economy. We want an economy where Kenyans who are very hardworking are enabled. And to that end, we would want, when the president says that there will be 3 billion set to help the coffee sector in terms of advance payments, it has to be structured. Well said, but how is it going to reach to the person, and how is it going to be revolving? How are we going to ensure that there are no defaults? It is an area. How is the government going to implement that without involving the elected leaders who know actually what happens on the ground and what needs to be done? I think, Mr. Speaker, that is an area that is lacking, and that is an area that needs some emphasis to be put on. Manufacturing or the industrialization, and I'm the chair of Tourism, Trade and Industrialization, Mr. Speaker. Governors have come in front of us. The other day we had the chairman, the chair of the Council of Governors in charge of trade and manufacturing. And they told us this is a pipe dream. There is no county, as we speak, other than probably Muranga, Laikipia is trying, and Makueni, and also I think Kitui, who can be able to tell you the roadmap towards manufacturing. And Senator here mentioned about the big industries that the president mentioned. Industrialization does not mean that we must go to foreigners to come and put in money for purposes of industrialization. We need to help the counties by way of the 200 million, like the ones where we are putting equipment to Railo. We need to put infrastructure so that counties can be able to engage the youngsters and the young people so that they can be able to manufacture cottage industries. We need to encourage cottage industries, and that is the only way we are going to start developing. Countries like India are very good in cottage industries. China is coming up. It also has very good cottage industries. I think Germany is doing very well, that you manufacture these parts and things, the other parts. The other thing, Mr. Speaker, is that as we plan and as we move forward, the national government must take lead in trying to help the counties in taking advantage of what one would call comparative advantage of counties, so that every county does not copy and paste what other county is doing. Because if that continues, then we'll have a problem of oversupply. This is basic economics. Oversupply will create another challenge, another problem. Issues of housing, the other agenda. A good idea, but I'm not sure, and even in Kirinyaga and other counties, there is anybody who carried out public participation to ask whether is it that we need houses, or do we need infrastructure, or do we need cheaper loans or cheaper finances so that we can be able to construct our homes for ourselves. I think the government need to look at that issue, because we need people to participate and say, what is it that you want? I was in Samburu, Mr. Speaker. If you say you are building houses for those people in Samburu, is it their priority? My answer is no. So I think we don't have to have generic issue. We need to domesticate or adapt to different environment when we are talking about the issues of agenda 4. Mr. Speaker, moving forward, when we talk about the the economy growing, and I have been asking the economists that what is happening, because the macro is said to be growing, but you look down here, the micro, it is not growing. People are suffering. There is no money. Ask the people who do businesses. Everybody is saying, what happened? There is no money in circulation. Businesses are not generating money. So, Mr. Speaker, that becomes quite a challenge. And I think we need to find out how the money or the growth can trickle down to the very, very, very down business person. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of corruption, I support the president 100% when he says that there is no turning back. But Mr. Speaker, probably one of the, if I were to be asked now that we are on the issues of corruption, I think we needed to have given an amnesty and say, let's have a cut-off as a country. We call ourselves to a meeting as a country and say, people have been corrupt, because this has been a sickness. This has been a culture since I was born. I used to hear issues of corruption since I was born. We have grown that we're hearing about issues of corruption. Why wouldn't we have said, let's have an amnesty where we say, cut off, return what you have sought, and we have given you 3 months to return whatever it is that you have stolen from the public. And then from there, then we move ahead. But if that is not working, whatever direction and the DCI and the DPP takes, I think I would be able to support that. But finally, Mr. Speaker, as we deal with issues of corruption, we need to strengthen our issues of governance, especially on the institutions that deal with some of these issues. Because, Mr. Speaker, all this corruption we are talking about is procurement fraud. It starts with the issues of procurement. I think we need to retrace our systems of procurement, because the counties and everywhere we have procurement frauds. And that is where the problem of corruption starts. The other thing is the government is not talking about its spending bills. When we talk about the counties spending bills, the government has the highest number of pending bills. I think we need to tell the government also, the national government, to stop using suppliers' credit. Why would you want to stay with somebody's money for 2 years, somebody who borrowed money from the bank? I think, Mr. Speaker, if we do that, and we look at things in a holistic way, and the government comes open and opens its offices, its books, its everything, I think we'll be moving forward. I wish the government and I wish the president all the best, because there is room for improvement. I hope next year he will hit 60% in his address. With those few remarks, I do support the speech.
Senator Gertrude Musuruve.
Mr. Speaker, and I hope the word speaker is transmitting as speaker, because sometimes people say I talk of speaker when I'm saying speaker. So I hope the gadgets are transmitting clearly that it's speaker I'm talking about. Mr. Speaker, thank you very From my end, it is speaker. Mr. Speaker, is it coming out as Mr. Speaker?
Yeah, it's come out.
Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to actually give my comments on the President's speech, and also commend him for the speech. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say that normally when it comes to issues of leadership, people are very quick to see the negative, and they hardly see the positive. I want to believe that if anyone was on that throne of presidency, it will not be a very easy seat. People are quick to say, the president should have done this, the president should have done this, the president should have done this. But Mr. Speaker, I want to say that even those people, if they're on the throne, they might not have done what they're saying the president should have done. So I want to say, Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the president's speech. One, he was talking about issues of national values, and he clearly talked about Article 10. Mr. Speaker, issues of national value are important. When we are talking of issues of patriotism, when you're talking of issues of inclusivity, when you're talking of issues of unity, these are issues that are very important. And the President started his speech by looking at national issues, Article 10, national obligation. Then he goes further to talk about international obligation. Mr. Speaker, as a nation, there is no way we can go international before we put our house in order. So I think that even the crafting of the speech from the word go was well-meaning. And when you're talking about international obligations, and I want to say, Mr. Speaker, this is also a plus that we are saying that the President came out clearly to say that he's committed to ensuring that the international obligations are achieved. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is a signatory. Kenya has ratified quite a number of, international conventions. Like, for example, it has ratified, Convention on the Rights of Children. It has ratified Convention on Issues of Disability. And by the time Kenya is ratifying these conventions, Kenya is indeed saying that it will conform to international standards. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this is very good that Kenya has an obligation to, to international standards, and so it needs to be governed by international laws. However, when we look at our constitution, it comes out clearly that some aspects of international convention have been enshrined in the constitution. But I want to say before this House, Mr. Speaker, that it is unfortunate that even as you talk about the constitution, somehow as Kenya we are not able to defend what the Constitution stands for, especially when it comes to issues of disability. And Mr. Speaker, this is an issue I'll talk about when I'm here. I'll continue talking about until this House comes to an end. Because, Mr. Speaker, even though as a country we ratified UN conventions and all that, you find that what we stand for, we are not doing it, we are not implementing, practically we are not doing that. Mr. Speaker, I want to give an example of the 5% representation. You see, Mr. Speaker, the 5% representation of persons with disabilities. Mr. Speaker, do I continue?
Proceed, Senator Manzayo.
Bwana Spika, sijui kama umesikia alipotangulia kuongea dadangu Musuruve. Amesema yeye ataendelea kuongea mambo ya walemavu, aliendelea kuongea na ataendelea kuongea mpaka mwisho wa hii Senate. Nataka kuuliza, ni haki kwa yeye kusema kwamba ashatabiri kwamba kuna mwisho fulani wa hii Senate, ama yalikuwa mazungumzo ya aina gani? Kama anaweza kuyatafakari na akatueleza vizuri. Asante Bwana Spika.
Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I really commend Mr. Mathias, Senator Mathias, Senator Mathias for his concern, because I'm happy that he's listening keenly to what I'm saying. As in what I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, is that I will continue to talk in terms of raising awareness to our leaders here in the chambers. Maybe one or two of the leaders will take what I'm saying and implement on the ground, Mr. Speaker. So when I'm talking about issues of disability, I'm just expressing that I'll continue to be a voice of persons with disabilities, Mr. Speaker, and I will not relent on that. And it is very well-meaning, because I need to voice out the issues so that they come out clearly, and when leaders here, even at county level, they're going to implement, because Kenya ratified the UN Convention on Persons with Disabilities. And indeed, Kenya was saying that since it's a signatory, it will implement.
Proceed. I hope Senator Manzayo has understood the meaning of your statements. Proceed, Senator. Gertrude.
Thank you. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I was happy about the president's speech, and I was even trying to make a tally of no turning back. I started making a frequency count, no turning back on the national obligations, no turning back on international obligations, no turning back on living on issues of inclusivity, no turning back on the Building Bridges initiative and all that. So I did a frequency count. It was even coming to more than 10. So this really shows that the president is committed to what he's saying. And I want to say that probably as Kenyans, what we need to do, we need to just support the initiative he has, and we also encourage even at leadership level, so that we ensure that we are not turning back. Because if the president says this, he is not alone in leadership. He needs also leaders to support what they're doing, what he's saying, and we as leaders can support what we are saying if we actually implement in our leadership skills. Now, Mr. Speaker, I was also happy about the issue of, the president said clearly, no turning back on Building Bridges initiative. And I want to commend the president for this, because when the handshake came, it was great for all Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, before the handshake, even the economy of the country was shaky. Even the social interaction was shaky. Politically, everything was shaky. But when the handshake came, it came with a different twist of unity, love, and I want to commend the president, together with the former Prime Minister, Raila Amolo Odinga. When they decided to have the handshake, it changed the national perspective of many Kenyans. There was peace all over, and I'm happy that the president is saying that there is no turning back. There was a handshake, it will continue to be there, and the Building Bridges initiative will continue. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that even as you're talking about a handshake, even in the women fraternity, the women are also trying to see how can they be part of the Building Bridges initiative, and that is why they are starting the women brigade to ensure that we help in bringing peace, we help in unity, so that the love of Kenyans and the interaction transcends, goes beyond ethnicity, goes beyond tribe, goes beyond political parties, goes beyond everything else. Because, Mr. Speaker, we must look at ourselves as Kenyans before anything else. We need to see ourselves as one nation. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say that with unity, we can achieve so much, Mr. Speaker. But when we are divided in terms of political affiliations, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of even religion, we cannot go far as a nation. So I want to really support what the Prime Minister, Raila Amolo Odinga, did, together with the President, to have the handshake and to ensure that the Building Bridges initiative is on. And Mr. Speaker, even as you're speaking right now, the Building Bridges initiative is in all counties, picking views of Kenyans, What do you want us to do? How can we bring the country together? How can we be united? How can we move forward and all that? And Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this is what we need as a nation. As in, we want unity, we want oneness, and as leaders, we must go beyond ethnicity, we must go beyond political parties. And Mr. Speaker, this is a gift that we can leave to our children, because the President said clearly that in terms of
he will not turn back. And he'll ensure that he gives a gift to the children of this nation, and the gift will be a better Kenya, better than we inherited. Mr. Speaker, when you're saying giving a gift to our children, it actually means that we're going to make sure that our children pick the baton from us, and when they pick the baton from us, they'll pick the right baton that is united, that will really ensure that we are forging forward as a country. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that I'm really also in support of what the President said. In his speech, he actually said that 1.7 trillion is remitted to counties. This is well-meaning. But, Mr. Speaker, there's need for accountability of this 1.7 trillion, because that is a lot of money. Counties must account for what is happening with the 1.7 trillion. Disbursing money to counties is not enough. We must have deliverables. The counties must say, this is the money we had, and these are the projects that we did, and these are the indicators. Mr. Speaker, indicators are very important, because if there are no indicators, then there's no need of disbursing money to counties. And the President, I remember in his last speech last year, said that right now, devolution is not a baby. And since it's not a baby, this money has been devolved to counties. So what are counties doing? Counties must be able to deliver to citizens of Kenya. Counties must ensure, even governors themselves must ensure that they even report to the Senate that this is what we did with the county, with the money that was delivered to the counties, so that we see that they're delivering to services to wananchi. Because devolution is about delivering to the wananchi. Devolution is about having deliverables. Mr. Speaker, we need to have deliverables in this Senate, Mr. Speaker, and we should not even relent, especially when it comes to oversight role. But I want to say it clearly, Mr. Speaker, that as a Senate, we are just a limping duck when it comes to issues of oversight. Because we are supposed to oversight, we don't have the teeth. Mr. Speaker, there is no way we can oversight if we have not even been facilitated to oversight. Our biggest role, Mr. Speaker, is to represent the counties and the interests of the counties. And it is not possible to do this without money, Mr. Speaker. So there's need, Mr. Speaker, for a reasonable budget to be set aside for the purpose of ensuring that legislators, the senators, are able to legislate as the Constitution demands, Article 96, Mr. Speaker. We are not able to do that. And, Mr. Speaker, there's need also for this to be taken into account. Mr. Speaker, I'm also happy about the President's speech when he said that reforms of Kenya are going to be farmer-centric. Mr. Speaker, if they're going to be farmer-centric, let the sugarcane farmers be paid up to the last cent. We have a duty as a nation to encourage farmers wherever they are. Most of the time, you find farmers are discouraged. And when they're discouraged, they stop even, planting. They stop engaging in farming. And, Mr. Speaker, if we cannot protect our farmers, if we cannot encourage our farmers, who do we want to encourage our farmers? Mr. Speaker, for instance, if maize is imported from elsewhere, sugar is imported from elsewhere, how do you expect the Kenyan farmer to be encouraged to continue, planting these crops that will not go anywhere? Mr. Speaker, we have to live our talk. We have to walk our talk. So that if we say that we are farmer-centric, we have to ensure that all the farmers' needs are factored in, all the farmers are happy. And, Mr. Speaker, as you're saying now, I'm happy there's a task force to look into the sugarcane issue. But that task force should report here that all the farmers have been paid. All the sugarcane farmers have been paid. As you're speaking now, 3 weeks ago, there was a meeting in Kisumu, but farmers were complaining that all of them have not been paid. Mr. Speaker, as a nation, as a house, we must actually support our farmers, because the Senate is here to defend the counties and the interests of the counties. If we cannot defend the farmers, then we have no business actually being here as a Senate. We have no business even standing before Kenyans. What are we telling Kenyans if farmers have not been paid? What are we telling Kenyans if farmers are crushed? What are we telling Kenyans if farmers decide they're not farming anymore? Where do we expect them to go? Mr. Speaker, farmers have land, and land is a factor of production for farmers. And as a factor of production, it needs to work for them, because these farmers, you'll find some of them have school fees, some of them have medical issues, some of them have many issues. But who is addressing their issues? Mr. Speaker, there's actually need for us as a country to ensure that we are supporting our farmers, we are standing with our farmers, and we are encouraging our farmers so that farming even if we say that we are farmer-centric, it should be an actionable statement, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say also that I really support this speech, and I'm happy about the President's speech, because he summarized into, he gave a report on measures taken in terms of national values, measures taken in terms of international obligations, and finally on state of security of the country. Mr. Speaker, thank you. I support this speech.
Senator Manzayo.
Asante Daktari Speaker. Jambo la kwanza mimi nataka kusema kwamba naunga mkono hotuba ya Mheshimiwa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta wakati alipokuja kutoa hotuba katika mabunge haya mawili yote yaliyokutana ndani ya chumba cha bunge la kitaifa. La kwanza nataka kushukuru hotuba ya Rais kwa sababu iligusa mambo mengi ambayo zaidi sana yanahusika na wananchi ama ujengaji wa taifa. Lakini kuna mengi Rais ambayo hakugusia na ambayo ingekuwa vyema kama Rais angegusia. Kitu cha kwanza cha muhimu, jukumu la serikali ni kuona kwamba kazi kwa vijana imetekelezeka. Mimi nasema hivi kwa sababu katika majumbani kwetu tunaona kwamba hivi sasa vijana wengi wanaomaliza skuli hawana kazi. Hakuna njia za aina yoyote ambayo serikali imeanzisha ya kuona kwamba vijana hawa wamepata kazi. Mheshimiwa Spika, utajua kwamba hakuna hatari kubwa katika taifa lolote katika ulimwengu ikiwa watu waliohitimu wakapata shahada za degree ana hawana kazi. Hao ndio sababu vijana kama hao wana akili kwa sababu wamesoma na wanaweza kutumia zile akili kwa njia nyingi. Ndio tunapata ya kwamba wakati mwingi sana Bwana Spika, watoto wetu wanaingia katika magrupu kama ya Al-Shabaab. Na imekuwa ni hatari kwa sababu ni vijana wanasoma, ni vijana wanaweza kaa wakakagua na wakajua ni jinsia gani mtu anaweza kutenda kitendo ambacho serikali inaweza kupata habari. Jambo kama hili ilikuwa muhimu liwe katika hotuba ya Rais. Lakini Rais mwenyewe hakulitia mkazo jambo kama hili ambalo ni donda sugu ndani ya serikali ya Kenya, ndani ya nchi hii yetu ya Kenya. Jambo la pili ambalo Rais alikosa kuongea, aligusia mengi sana kuhusikana na makampuni, lakini hakuweza kugusia yale mashirika ambayo hivi sasa hayako tena, ama watu walitumia njia nyingi za ufisadi, alafu haya mashirika haya yakaweza kupoteza mwelekeo na hatimaye yakafungwa. Nikisema hivi ninazingatia ya kwamba kuna mashirika katika maeneo ya Pwani. Katika mkoa wa Pwani tumeweza kuona ya kwamba mkorosho, haswa katika kaunti ya Kilifi. Mkorosho ni jambo ambalo ni mmea ambao umekuwa ukikuza uchumi wa watu wa Kilifi. Wengine kama sisi tumesomeshwa na mmea wa mkorosho kwa sababu zamani hapo wazee walikuwa wakichukua hizo korosho na wakienda kwa cooperative society wakiuza wakipata pesa, alafu sisi tunaweza kwenda skuli. Bwana Daktari Speaker, kitu nilikuwa nataka kusisitiza zaidi, kuna mahali kama Bixa Factory ambayo ilikuwa ikileta pesa nyingi sana katika eneo la Kwale County. Hivi sasa shirika hilo limepiga magoti na limefilisika. Pia vile vile tukiangalia Ramisi Sugar, shirika hilo pia limepiga magoti na limekufa, halifanyi kazi yote. Watu wameachishwa kazi, vijana wako wamerudi tena kwa majumba yao. Sisi tunasema ya kwamba Rais katika hotuba yake angekuwa aliweka mkazo zaidi kuhusikana na vile anaweza kufua vitengo kama hivi. Hasa zaidi sana nikiweka mkazo wa kwamba katika ulimwengu hivi sasa, kama kuna mmea ambao watu wanaweza kulipa pesa na wakapata manufaa, ni mmea kama korosho. Bwana Spika, ni jambo la kusikitisha kuona kwamba rais katika hotuba yake hakuweza kuweka kinaga ubaga ni njia gani anaweza kufufua mashirika ambayo yalifilisika ama yalifilisishwa na watu ambao mpaka hivi sasa wako ndani ya serikali na wengine waliweza kustaafu. Vile vile katika hotuba ya rais ambayo aliweza kugusa mambo mengi, lakini kuna changamoto kubwa sana. Hivi sasa makaunti yanalazimishwa kulipa pesa nyingi zile mashine ambazo zililetwa na serikali kusaidia pengine upande wa kupiga picha, zile wanaziita MRI, pengine mashine za sijui x-ray. Mashine nyingi waliweza kuzileta na hatimaye wakaingia katika mkataba ili serikali za mashinani za ugatuzi ziweze kuzingatia na kuweza kuweka vidole, na hiyo yalifanyika na pesa hizo zinatoka ni nyingi sana. Lakini tukiangalia hivi sasa mashini nyingi ziko katika hayo hospitali. Daktari Spika, mashini hizo hivi sasa tukubaliane ya kwamba nyingi zao hazifanyi kazi, zimekaa tu kiholela, ama hata ikiwa zinafanya kazi, Daktari Spika, nyingi zao hazina wale wenye taaluma ya kuzitumia. Tunapata kwamba kuna vijana wamewekwa pale, mashini ziko pale, lakini ile taaluma ya kuweza kujua hii mashini hii itafanya nini ili wapate kupata faida yake haijajulikana bado. Kwa hiyo hizo mashini ziko huko zimelala, serikali za kaunti zinalipa madeni na hali mashini hizo hazifanyi kazi. Angeleta tatuo yeye rais katika hotuba yake, lakini hakuleta, na hiyo imekuwa ni hasara tupu kwa serikali za kaunti. Na sisi kama maseneta tukiwa hapa tunazingatia umuhimu wa kuona kwamba serikali za kaunti zinafaidika na zile pesa ambazo tunazipigania hapa ziende katika serikali zetu za kaunti. Na ikiwa serikali za kaunti zitapata hizo pesa, ni makosa sana kwa serikali ya kati ama national government kuweza kuzifuata zile pesa tena kwa mashine ambazo hazifanyi kazi, zimelala, hazina faida yoyote katika kaunti ama katika hospitali za kaunti. Na hatimaye vile vile nilikuwa nataka kugusia hali mbovu, hali dhaifu iliyo katika mahospitali yetu. Tunajua mambo ya ugatuzi yalipelekwa katika serikali za mashinani, lakini vile vile serikali ya kati lazima ijukumike. Kuna shirika moja linaitwa KEMSA, linaweza lina siasa, linatakana kupeleka madawa. Utashangaa, nakwambia Daktari Spika, ukifika katika hospitali yangu ya Kilifi utapata dawa zilizoko kule either ni Panadol, sijui wanaita sijui Centrum, sijui vitu gani. Hakuna dawa zozote ambazo serikali ya kati inaingilia katikati na kuweza kupeleka katika serikali za mashinani kupitia kwa hii kitu inaitwa sijui KEMSA. Hili shirika hili kazi yake ni kuchukua pesa tu. Wanapeleka dawa wali kama kaunti zile za pwani. Unapeleka dawa ambazo magonjwa yaliyoko pwani hivi sasa ni kama malaria, tuberculosis ama nini, unapeleka vitu kama painkillers. Hizo zitasaidia nani? Kwa hiyo Daktari Spika, hotuba ya rais ilikuwa iko sawa, lakini ilikuwa na mtafaruku ama mkosi fulani ambao hakuweza kuhimiza hili shirika ambalo linapeleka madawa katika serikali za mashinani lipeleke dawa zinazofaa. La mwisho, Bwana Spika, ningependa kugusia na ambalo ni jambo muhimu kwa Wakenya. Aliweza kutafakari na akaweza kuligusia na akalieleza vizuri sana, na akasema hatarudi nyuma. Ni jinsi ya kutengeneza daraja la Wakenya kuweza kushikana mikono na kutuende mbele. Tafakari hilo ni muhimu sana, na mimi ningependa Mheshimiwa Rais alishike kwa mikono miwili, kwa sababu hiyo wanaita kushikamana mikono ama building bridges, ili tuvuke ile daraja na Wakenya waweze kupendana, ni jambo muhimu katika hii nchi. Tunakumbuka kwamba mwaka wa 2017 hatimaye tu baada ya kura kupigwa, sisi kama Wakenya tulilumbana mbaya sana hapa. Tulileta shida kubwa sana kwa sababu hatukuweza kukubali, na tuliamini ya kwamba kura zetu sisi katika NASA ziliibiwa, na hatukukubali kabisa kwamba hii serikali iliyoko katika mamlaka ilikuwa serikali kamilifu iliyochaguliwa na Wakenya. Na matokeo yake ama mavuno yake ilikuwa fujo ndani ya barabara, fujo katika biashara, hali ya uchumi katika Kenya ikaenda chini. Kitu cha muhimu nataka kusisitiza ni kwamba rais asirudi nyuma. Asijaribu kurudi nyuma katika mambo haya ya kutengeza bridge ambayo Wakenya wataendelea kupendana. Na pia tunataka kumshukuru haswa hususan Baba Raila Amolo Odinga, ambaye yeye alijitolea muhanga, japokuwa alikuwa ameshinda, akatangazwa kwamba mambo mengine yakatokea hivi, lakini hii tunasema ya kwamba mambo hayo yalikwisha, yako nyuma yetu. Bwana Spika, sisi tunaangalia mbele, hatutarudi nyuma. Yaliyopita si twende, tugange yajayo. Sasa yale yanayokuja ni kwamba lazima Wakenya hivi sasa tushikane mkono pamoja na tuweze kwenda mbele na tupendane na kuona kwamba hii mambo ya building bridges yameweza kufaulu. Asante sana Dr. Speaker.
Senator Alice Milko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me a chance to also contribute to the national address by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, sir, I support this speech of the President. By looking at the first pages, the President took a lot of time to really recommit himself to actually serving Kenyans without favor or fear. And I felt that is a very important kind of commitment, and I wish to really thank the President for really assuring Kenyans that he's still ready to serve them. Additionally, along that, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the building bridges, which constituted a handshake between our President and Raila Amolo Odinga, that is the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, to me, I support this one because earlier on, there were areas that were no-go zones for certain people, particularly when it comes to employment. In terms of other businesses, I remember I have a large group of farmers in my county that own tractors, and they would go even plowing in areas like Migori. Those people had already feared going to those places, but right now they are carrying out their businesses there. We have very many other employees who are, in this case, fearing to be posted in areas that were NASA zones. And right now, because of the handshake, I think that is the major thing that this handshake has done. I remember even we used to fear even going to hold meetings in Kisumu, Mr. Speaker, being Jubilee members. But right now, we can go swim whenever we like, and I think that is one major thing that the handshake has done. Mr. Speaker, in his speech again, I did realize that the President was able to recognize our heroes and heroines in the names of Eliud Kipchoge, who is our champion, in athletics. In addition to that, we also have Roy Alela, who was able to really innovate and invent smart globes that are able to convert sign language into audio speech, which is a real form of innovation. And I think recognizing people, particularly by the head of state, will go a long way in even challenging our youths to be more innovative. Today, I was able to even read in the newspapers about a watchman who is a casual laborer who was able to build a road 2.5 kilometers, Mr. Speaker, using only a spade, a hoe, an axe, and using his hands only. There was no excavator, there was no, that is roller, and in any case, he was able to reduce a distance of 3 kilometers to Kaganda School, primary school, as well as Kaganda Anglican Church, Mr. Speaker. Those are our heroes, and I would have wished the president would include in his recognition those institutions where we have people that have really worked in their performance management to uphold integrity, particularly in terms of managing corruption-free institutions. And I'm sure this will assure us of better Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, one thing that the president also had in his speech was really commenting about the devolution that has taken over 1.7 trillion shillings to the counties. Mr. Speaker, I wish to say that our Constitution 2010 has been praised all over the world as one of the most progressive constitution, and one of the major achievements was the devolution, Mr. Speaker. However, looking at this 1.7 trillion, we are still saying that this money is not enough, and we are still requesting the president that our county still needs more money. More money needs to be added, and in any case, to be released at the right time. That is timely release of these particular funds, because this money, in areas where they have been managed properly, they have really turned around the lives of our people. However, we are also saying that in terms of this money, we need to really empower the senators as well as the MCAs, and more particularly the senators in terms of oversight funding, so that we are able to really monitor this money to ensure that our people get value for their money, Mr. Speaker, because we have been treated to very many counties where money has been mismanaged, embezzled, and in any case put to wrong use. In that case, Mr. Speaker, as one senator had already put it, that we normally receive a very stale kind of information because of the fact that we receive a report at the end of the year. That report at the end of the year from the Auditor General cannot be able to salvage money that has been stashed in other areas. Mr. Speaker, sir, I also want to laud the president when he actually praised members of parliament for really doing the role that they were brought here for, particularly in passing well over 22 bills. Mr. Speaker, sir, that is a very good job that has been done by Parliament. However, I wish to say that it has been a very great challenge, because out of these bills that have been passed, one very important bill, gender bill, has blocked, or in this case, failed to pass 4 times, Mr. Speaker. I wish to say that in a democracy like Kenya, there is an unfinished business in terms of really passing this particular bill, because actually when we talk about gender bill, it is not a women's bill, Mr. Speaker, but it is an inclusivity bill, it is a non-discrimination bill, and this bill in this case would go a long way in empowering the women to better economic growth and organizational performance, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish at this particular juncture to really request our beloved President, His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, to really bless the women folk and be part of this his legacy, to really ensure that this gender bill is passed, so that the women, in part of celebrating and really remembering him for an industrialized country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, however, I used to say that there are a lot of challenges facing issues of education, particularly when it comes to 100% transitioning. In terms of many issues that need streamlining, Mr. Speaker, because I think what has been the major challenge in the education sector is that not all stakeholders are actually brought on board to conduct what we call public participation. Because I think there was one senator, my colleague, Mary Senator, brought a statement in this house, Mr. Speaker, where she was complaining about distribution of, promotion of teachers, a policy of promotion of head teachers. As we are speaking right now, all the schools in this country are understaffed, Mr. Speaker. As I'm even speaking right now, my county, Bomet County, is the secondary schools are lacking 1,800 teachers, while the primary schools are lacking 15,200 teachers, Mr. Speaker. And that one is going to put the issues of quality education into jeopardy, Mr. Speaker. In addition to that one, Senator Naomi Shionga also brought a statement complaining about the issues of supply of water in the secondary schools, Mr. Speaker. In fact, at the close of business last year, we know that when our candidates were sitting for KCSE, there were many girls that were already pregnant. Some of them were keeping birth while doing examination. If we are going to send our kids to collect water every now and then, in this case, we allow them to interact with either people in the village, or if they are mixed schools, we allow a lot of free time for interaction, and therefore, we actually expose our girls to a lot of challenges, Mr. Speaker. And even in addition to that one, what happens is that dirty water that could be in schools is also a challenge in terms of bringing, or rather causing, water-related diseases. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to say that issues, there are also challenges in terms of registration of schools, in terms of other materials, apart from supplying exercise books that are, textbooks that have been supplied. There has been an oversupply. What happens is that there are other materials that would have been required in form of ICT materials. Mr. Speaker, sir, on the Big Four agenda, I allow the President, and we are in support. However, many of them are still facing challenges, like the universal health care is a welcome issue, where everybody would get affordable health care, but then we still have a problem of health workers striking, as well as shortages of drugs. Food security, Mr. Speaker, our agriculture is still relying on rain-fed agriculture. And then we even have other crops such as tea. Tea farmers, particularly in my county, are really suffered because the tea prices are very low. Because normally they say this, their tea is taken as a raw material. And for a long time, we have been complaining and really requiring to have this tea have what we call value addition, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, issues of veterinary, in this case, I've suffered a lot, particularly when we come to dairy issues. Extension workers are no longer there to advise the farmers. And even when it comes to AI services, there is a challenge, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to allow the President in terms of SME financing, particularly when we are going to launch what we are calling SME Credit Guarantee Scheme, which he actually assured Kenyans that it will be launched in a few weeks. This one will actually assist Kenyans in terms of ensuring that money is obtained with less challenges, Mr. Speaker, more particularly without requiring collateral. However, we are saying we actually ask that this one here should be properly managed so that it is not affected by issues of corruption. Mr. Speaker, sir, in terms of the leather value chain, I allow the President and issues of textile and local shoemaking. I think this is a way of value addition. And if these industries are brought on board in Kenya, what happens is that our youth, which are unemployed, will in this case go a long way to receive employment. And in addition to that one, it will be adding value to our produce, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, for many years in Bomet County, particularly in Chebalungu County, where we have a lot of livestock, we have been really looking forward to even a local factory, meat factory, together with and Heights and Skins factory, Mr. Speaker. And I hope in line with these types of small light industries will be distributed throughout the various counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to finally say that in terms of corruption, we support the president 100% to ensure that corruption, which is like a cancer in our country, is actually dealt with once and for all. And I love the idea that the president said he'll not, in this case, turn back in terms of ensuring that he'll deal with everybody without fear, whether they are his friends, whether they are his political friends or what have you. What it is that we encourage him, that all parliamentarians are supporting him. Together with that one, I think all Kenyans are supporting him. I think one time there was something like lifestyle audit, Mr. Speaker, and we do not know what happened to that. When we have such an issue brought on board and then suddenly it disappeared, we do not know what happened. Maybe it was issues of lack of legislation to ensure that there was a lifestyle audit. And in any case, if such an issue would come up again, it should not be directed to few individuals, Mr. Speaker. And in any case, this would have assisted in scaring away very many people. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to really thank the President for this great speech and for those few remarks I wish to support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Naomi Shionga.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute toward the presidential address for this year. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like by thanking the President for coming and actually addressing the nation through our able houses or our able parliament so that he can reach as many Kenyans as possible and the representatives of Kenya. From the address of the President, I picked out a few things that my colleagues might have spoken about, but I will not deter from mentioning the same. When it comes to devolution, Mr. President, or His Excellency the President, mentioned that it remains one of the novelties of the new constitution, and indeed it is. And the devolution is one of the best gifts Kenyans received. However, I would like to say that as much as devolution has brought all that we want for Kenyans and all that Kenyans waited, it is the highest time that we counter-check to find out whether the funds that are going to the counties or are dispersed to the counties are really doing what it is anticipated, especially in terms of development and approved standards of living of Kenyans. It is therefore the highest time he also goes ahead and hammer those who are, especially the Treasury or anybody who is holding the funds, for those of us who really need to go down on the ground and see if these funds are making sense or not. Because if you look down there, some of the counties have made this one as a milking cow. And devolution has made people faster to become rich. And we are looking at it and saying that we really need, as a house, if at all the President came here and addressed the nation, we go down there, we be facilitated, go down there and look at the funds, if at all the funds that are intended for this devolution is improving the lives of Kenyans. Secondly, and by extension, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is encouraging and not really enough for the head of the state to talk about corruption. We have said that corruption in Kenya has hampered development. And everyone here is speaking about corruption. So what? Should we just be saying about corruption? It is the highest time The president, when he comes, and I beg the president, because it's the highest time we need to beg the president, when he comes with the names of those people he has sacked, not those people who are participating in corruption. Those that he has sacked, and those that are waiting even to be sacked, we anticipate them before the next address to walk out just like the other countries are doing. Because if we look at corruption in Kenya, it has been an obstacle, a big obstacle to delivering of services to Kenyans. And even if the president comes here and says about corruption, and if he's saying that he is fighting, we are supporting 100%. But it is the highest time these culprits that are sitting in big offices in Kenya, that are sitting on the wealth and driving big vehicles in Kenya, it is the highest time these people quit the government. I support the president fully, but Mr. President, I look you in the eyes and I say, from your speech, let these people go. Let these people hear and go. We are tired of corrupt individuals in our country. When it comes to UHC, the Universal Health Program, 4 counties have so far rolled out this program. But we still have challenges in this particular program or this universal program. And it is my reservation, or I register reservation in this particular pilot and this particular program that is taking place. The president missed out on mentioning on the provisions on how he's going to prevent.
Order, honorable senators. What is it, Honorable Faria Haji?
Mr. Speaker, is it in order for the senator, honorable senator, to say she looks straight in the eyes of the president, yet the president is not in this house, Mr. Speaker?
I think she's referring on that address day.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for because when he was addressing, we were looking at him, and now we are digesting and assuming that we are still looking at him addressing us. So I think I'm in order. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for preventing me. I was on the point of UHC. It is a good program. It is a program that we are looking for enhancing healthcare services or healthcare provision in our country. However, I have reservation for the program. We still have so many challenges coming up in our counties when it comes to this healthcare provision. But the president, in his address, he did not give us ways and measures on how we are going to improve, because most of the counties are still experiencing strikes. We are still experiencing shortages of healthcare providers. So I'm still looking at the president when he comes back, or how best he can address the challenges our counties are facing in terms of healthcare program in the counties, and so far where he said that the rollout will be fully implemented in 2019 and 2020. Mr. Speaker, sir, I applaud the president on Building Bridges initiative. We are Kenyans. I was the other day in Rwanda, and when I went to Rwanda, I felt so sad when I saw massive and the graves of those people who died because of hatred that was hidden amongst its citizens. When we have something or such an initiative in Kenya of building bridges, people coming together from political divide, I think it is the best reward Kenya got. And we need to applaud the president with the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. When they came together and shook hands, it is not a matter of physical hand. It went down into practical peace initiative. It went down to Kenyans, and we are experiencing the peace that many countries in Africa have never gotten. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is the highest time Kenyans need to embrace this. It is.
Order, honorable senators. Senator Chionga, you will have a balance of 8 minutes when this order next appears on the order paper. And we will have Senator Fahalda following you when this order appears again. Honorable senators, it's now 6:30 p.m. Time to adjourn the House. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, 11th April 2019 at 2:30 p.m.